Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Player X here from the Semi-Limited Podcast. It's been a while since you guys have been hearing from me. I know it's been like a week or two. We just wanted to get a lot of things in preparations ready for the last episode that we're doing for the year, and as well as giving some of our brother-sister podcasts some love. So be sure to go check out Heart of the Podcast last episode where I was on there. We know we didn't drop this week on our platforms, but it's because I was over there featuring on their podcast, where you can go check out where we're talking about some of the things that we'll be talking about today, as well as the growth of the podcast and how we started from earlier this year. So if you guys are a little bit interested on the backstory of all that, be sure to go check out Heart of the Podcast on all major platforms and go check out that interview. But today's episode is jam-packed, guys. Like I said, last episode of 2023. So glad you guys could be with us. It's been a wild, wonky ride. We've had some ups and some downs, but I'm so glad that you guys are here with us for all of it. You guys know that on Spotify, we had our wrapped up, and we were top 40. We are the first TCG podcast for 40 plus viewers. So I can't thank you guys enough. Appreciate all the support. Before we get into this crazy episode, we're going to have to do all of our plugins. I'm just going to try to run through them as we usually do, because I want to get right into today's topics with our guest panel. Because for those who don't know, if you're listening to this, we are live right now in our Discord, which you can usually see in our description box. You'll see a link to Linktree, which you can be a part of our Discord. And we have a slew of guests from all of the guests that we had on the podcast the past year. So before we get into that, please go to our Linktree link in the description box below to follow all of our social sites. You'll see a link that brings up a tab with all of our social sites, our distributors, and all that stuff, so you can listen to podcasts on any form you want. Be sure that you are following and subscribed and notified on all of our social sites, because when we hit the 50 followers on TikTok, which we're pretty close to, 100 on Twitter, and then 200 followers on Instagram and YouTube, we'll be doing way more giveaways. We have given away 4 prizes this year. It's like once per quarter. I can't wait to double that next year. I want to be on some of the other guest status on this podcast and give out basically stuff every week for you guys. So be sure that you're sharing it with your friends and tagging everyone. And also be sure to go check out Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York. For those who are listening in the New York area, you can be sure to go join their Discord server, also in the description box below, to be a part of all their TCG communities. They have every single TCG you can think of in store. You can go there, find out what's going on as far as like card nights, who to trade with, and then when you guys go in store, be sure to mention the Semi-Limited Podcast, and they'll be sure to hook you guys up. Joe has been phenomenal with all the giveaways. He's helped us with 5 out of the 8 giveaways that we've had for promotions and stuff like that, and even outside for the events that we were throwing. So I appreciate everything that they're doing over there as well. Also, moderating today for the chat is Brad, aka Mr. Perfect, who usually live streams every Saturday night on Twitch at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. His Twitch is also in that Linktree link below. You can catch him streaming his deck theorying, his playtesting when we go practice for big events, or maybe he's just doing something like Master Duel or playing something like Fortnite. You never really know. But be sure to go in there and catch up with Brad every Saturday at Twitch. And if you interact with his channel and his chat, and he, I think we just gave him a box to give away to a lucky viewer last time, right? If I'm correct, Brad?
Yes, we did, and that was for Eric. Lucky man.
Oh yeah, of all people, yeah, Eric Christensen.
Yeah, for real.
I forgot. But yeah, so be sure to catch his streaming on Twitch every Saturday. Link in the description box below as well. But now that we got all that out the way, getting into today's episode, I'd like to thank all of our guests tonight for coming. We have a wonderful panel of a bunch of Yu-Gi tubers, big and small, and I'm so glad that we're all here under one roof to get to tonight's episode and bring something special to those who have been rocking with us since the beginning and showing their love and support. So we went out and got as many of the past guests that you guys have heard for the year of 2023 and brought them back for one last hoorah. So without any further ado, we're gonna have everyone introduce themselves and then give a short plug-in of any sponsors or any whereabouts of where you might want to be able to see them. So let's start it right off.
Yep. All right, fantastic. Yeah, VengefulShad0wz here. We don't actually have any sponsors, but a huge shout out to my editor and kind of like partner in crime, Thug314. But yeah, just VengefulShad0wz. We stream, or yeah, we do a little bit of streaming on the Twitch. We mainly are on YouTube, kind of the Yu-Gi tuber there for market watches and kind of meta theory. And then we're also on Twitter or X now. So that is VengefulShad0wz.
It'll go right down the line, so Figs.
All right. Shout out to Semi-Limited, of course, for having me on again. You guys can check me out on Figs Forum, Figs here. provide the good old Phantom Night content and competitive content on YouTube. So go ahead and check me out.
Yo, what's going on, guys? You guys heard me before on X's podcast. Thank you for having me on again today, X. Just a quick shout out to all the boys from part of the podcast and those who couldn't be here, Z, Demetrius, and
Period.
Kevin. Oh, and period. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but thanks for having us on, X.
Well, obviously, shout out to X for having me. Once again, I really appreciate it. I do daily market watches. So YGO Fresh off the press, you can find me in our YouTube. That's our main platform. And then shout out to Saki. He's here as well, man. The fellow counterpart. We've collaborated before. And we always do market watches. Just go over the prices, obviously going up and down, making recommendations. And that's what we do. So yeah, make sure you check me out.
How's it going, everyone? GGYGO here. Shout outs to X for having me back on the podcast. It's always a lot of fun being able to collab with a lot of different people. It's just always such a great time to do content for being in the competitive scene. Currently on the back-to-back streak, about to have the 3-peat tomorrow. That'll be very exciting. Shout outs to my sponsors over at Imperium Duels, Dragon Shield, Gem, Cloud, RW, Grimoire, and Chainlink. Always been a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to be back, and everyone have a wonderful rest of the podcast.
Oh, what's going on, you guys? Slim here. OG, probably the longest one here. Very, very long time on YouTube. You guys already know. Still doing my thing. Still on YouTube. Shout out first and foremost to my new team, First to Last Gaming. Those are the boys. Me and my brother Johnny and James. We're all together. All my boys, just appreciate them. My two boys that I know are watching, Calvin the Kid, Gio, love you guys. I'm gonna shout out my fiance because she's literally like my best support system. Very, very lucky to have her.
There you go.
So I got to do that. And the sponsors, besides First to Last, they're already the best. But Dragon Shield, Gem, Dueling Guard's our new sponsor, so that's cool. And appreciate all them and all they do. And yeah, you'll just find me on YouTube, just doing my thing, and I'll eventually get back to streaming on there. I'm setting everything up, as you guys can see. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to this, and of course to you, Player X, Semi Limited. You guys are awesome. So appreciate you guys, and let's have a kick-ass podcast.
All right. Hey guys, Thomas from TeamSakurasou here. You already know. I do market watches. Shout out to Fresh Off the Press. As he said, we do stuff all the time. Market watches, deck profiles, Yu-Gi-Oh news. One of my goals is just to build an audience and make this game cheaper for a lot of people, because I think we could all agree this game's quite expensive, right? So I try to make sure that people are ahead of the curve so they can get their cards before, they skyrocket in price, to make this game a little cheaper, even get some stuff they want to collect. The only sponsor I have right now is Tapio Cards. Shout out to them. They make awesome merch. I really love their hats. Go check them out. And thank you for having me on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
What's going on, everybody? WinterKillz here. Super happy to be back on the podcast. Always fun. Had a lot of fun last time. And you can find me on YouTube, WinterKillz. You can find me on Twitch, just playing whatever, doing whatever on my channel. And shout outs to one of my sponsors, Imperium Duelist, longtime sponsor. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And then Mel,
I think I'm next. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mel, you are. Yeah.
I missed the order.
It'll be you, and then Joe.
Hey everybody, this is Mel from Heart of the Podcast. Shout out to George and Joe, who are also here. I have to say, super shout out to Xavier. It's really humbling to be here because I've been watching everybody on this podcast right now for so long, and it's really cool to be in the same space as them. So I appreciate all of you for helping all of us grow as players and as people. And I'll also echo Slim's shout out of shouting out my wife. This surfboard is hers, not mine. Everything she does is much cooler than me. I play Yu-Gi-Oh!
We just play cards. That's it.
We just play card games.
And then Joe.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Joseph.
All right, that's it, Joe.
All right. My introduction is, I'm pretty sure I topped the locals once, like a couple of years back. And I'm a host as well with Mel, George, and Nick for part of the podcast. And yeah, this is so cool seeing everybody here. Yeah, let's have a fun time.
All right, and with that out of the way, I think we have everyone here from our panel. So I appreciate every single one of you guys for coming out here and donating some time out of your day to come support not only the Semi-Limited podcast, but also our fans as well, and people who from all over came over to experience what it's like to be around you guys. And as Mel said, just be in the same space as you guys and, you know, kind of get their questions or whatever like that off. So before we get into today's episode, I also want to shout out the audience members. So for everyone in the audience right now, in the live, if you're listening to this after the fact, we want to shout out Domesday, Elfish Might 294, Sword Soul Joe, Tyler Cohen. We got Cubble, Calvin the Kid, this guy LP, and then Static. So much appreciated you guys all showing up.
And
we want to give you guys a real shout out. And then Ian as well. Blue Eyes, yeah, Blue Eyes White Privilege is there. So we got Ian in the audience too. Another local, shouts to him. Yeah, my bad, man.
Yeah, we had Gio as well. Shouting out Slim. Gio. Yeah, this guy is Gio.
Okay,
he was shouting out
that's
Slim.
why you're the
Slim's
chat
old
mod.
buddy right
You
there.
know
There we go. Mm-hmm.
So quick little plug. That's one of my best friends, basically my brother since kindergarten. That's one of my oldest friends. I have to plug him for sure.
There you go. All right, there you go. More or less.
Heck yeah. Gio.
Talk about friends as old as time. But now that everyone is introduced and all acquainted and we all got that out the way, let's start today off with the discussion about what happened at last week's YCS. So for those who don't know, last week we had YCS Bologna in Italy, and I probably just butchered the name. I'm not Italian, I'm sorry. But basically what happened was we had about over 2,400 players. I want to say it was like 2,430 something. So just about 2,500 for this YCS in Italy, and it was packed with a variety of different decks. In case you guys did not check it out, all of the decks in the room are broken down into these percentages. There was about 12% representation for Unchained, also 12% representation for Rescue Ace, so the tied for the highest represented deck in the room. Right behind that, we had 10% of Tier Elements, and then we also had 7% Labyrinth, 7% Pearly, 4% Bestial or some engine of something using Bistio, and then 48% other / rogue. So we had 48% of the room was unaccounted for because it's just this format's just all over the place. But a lot of the representation going towards Tier Elements, Rescue Ace, and Unchained, which doesn't shock me. A lot of the Euro players are more on the mid-range to stunny side of Yu-Gi-Oh, so nothing shocking there. These 2,400 players had to go through 12 vigorous rounds of Swiss to emerge into their top 64 cut, which looked like the following. We had 1 Rika Sun Avalon, 1 Marine Cess, 1 Bestial Runic, 1 Infernoble, 1 Kashtira, 1 Dragon Link, 2 Vanquished Souls, 2 Makanko, 3 Branded, which was really surprising to me, 4 Pearly, 4 Fire King, 4 Centurion, 6 Unchained, 9 Labyrinth, 10 Tier Elements, that was the surprising number to me. And then a shocking 14 Rescue Ace. With 22% of the top cut for 64, we had Rescue Ace basically leading the poll. Like, they were no doubt in my mind the most represented deck in that room. I think people were playing at least 5 or 6 rounds of just Rescue Ace alone. But fast forwarding, we got to a top cut of top 8 because I don't have the top 16 breakdown right now. But top 8, we had 3 Labyrinth players and then a whole bunch of 1-ofs. So 1 of Branded, 1 of Infernoble, 1 Tier Elements, 1 Rescue Ace, and then 1 Bestial Runic. And then the event was eventually won all the way at the end with Joshua Smith piling Bestial Runic, who now has snatched his 4th YCS victory. And I'm pretty sure that ties him now with Chris LeBlanc and Jesse Cotton for the most YCS wins. And I'm pretty sure Jesse Cotton just has more event wins under his belt. But now that we have a breakdown for what basically happened over the weekend, is there anything that happened in IRL that you guys might have predicted differently before the event started? For example, I thought that there was definitely going to be a little bit more Sprite, a little bit more Manadium, even some Flunderies that might have seen himself in a little bit more of the representation at the top cut of the event, but you didn't see any of that. Not to say that they weren't in the room, but they were definitely not represented in the top cut, making it through 12 rounds. So is there anything that you guys might not have expected to turn out this way for the YCS that you guys might have thought? Starting from the top.
Yeah, for Vanadium, I definitely agree. I thought that like we would actually see a little bit more of a like turnout at the end of the rounds, or like, you know, the end of the tournament for Vanadium, given how like strong their first turns can actually be. I think we're all like a little bit surprised at what deck did win, though. I mean, given it was like the Runic kind of chaos bestial variant that was kind of like the sore thumb in the room, and it just kind of like came out in the first place. And big shout out to Joshua Schmidt to, you know, pilot that all the way to the end, which honestly I think it was kind of nice seeing something like that, you know, take first place. So it gives hope to everyone else. So, you know, if they're kind of making something a little bit more rogue going into like something like a YCS.
I definitely think for me it was the Marincess. I don't even know how that got into top 64.
It's the Marincess for me, dog.
Yeah, like I don't know how it even squeezed in. I mean, it's one of those decks that I just haven't seen in a very long time. I know it has the ability to play a lot of interruption because of the amount of hand traps it can play, but I think that is actually one of the reasons why I feel like it should have had a harder time contending, just because of the fact that it's so reliant on seeing really good engine cards. So I don't know, just whoever piloted that deck just really just, like I said, they caught me off guard seeing that even just in the top 64. So
yeah, I gotta agree. Wet salads is crazy.
Wet salad. Yo, get the fuck out of here.
I stole that from Joe. Joe definitely made fun of me for continue to say salads were the superior Cypress deck, but I guess I was wrong. That's surprising to me. Earlier on in the year, I predicted that Rescue Ace was going to be a good deck, and honestly, I just went by. I say this all the time. I don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I just look at the picture and assume this is what the card does, and because it was like such a cool like fire engine or firefighter engines trucks shits, you know, I was like, this is gonna be a top deck, and I said it semi-jokingly, and look where it is now, which is, I think it's fucking crazy.
Well, yeah, honestly, for me, the surprise was Labyrinth. You know, in the top 8 to see 3 out of 8. That's what, 40%. I'm bad on math. So it was surprising, you know, that they were heavily represented in the top 64 with 9, and then in the top 8 with 3. I mean, they've been solid. They've been consistent, you know, throughout the previous YCSs as well. But to have that big representation, you know, so late into the tournament, that was a little surprising. And then Fire Kings, obviously, as a structured deck just coming out, you know, for people to pilot that to what? It had 4 people in the top 64 and reach all the way to top 16. You know, a lot of people weren't ready, though, so we'll see in the next YCS. But for me, it was really Labyrinth with the big representation, top 8, and then Fire Kings being so new, you know, actually putting up results was pretty, so fast, was pretty impressive to me.
So I would say it's very reminiscent of when Chimera came out at the regional level. Like, it just started just taking over every regional because nobody knew what the cards did. That's like every single time that we see a brand new deck, it's just like either you understand what the deck does or you get rolled by that deck, right?
Makes sense.
I'm not really surprised that we didn't see a lot of Vanadium either, because I think that deck had a huge hype because of Triff, and all of a sudden the deck just everyone realized it's extremely tier 2 and has a lot of problems. But at the time when it exploded, Triff himself is a very good player, right? Like, he knows what he's doing with the deck. It's like die hard into that deck too. It's like very much so a pendulum reminiscent, where like you put up a huge board and your opponent can't break it. But like the second that hype died and people were on a lot of hand traps, I think that's where Vanadium just has a really hard time. Just because, especially once you have a lot of decks that can just clear a normal summon, right? And that's what people are just doing. The other thing too is I'm genuinely surprised, but at the same time not really, that we haven't seen a lot of Flu. In my last 4 events, I played against Flu 1 time. That's pretty crazy. And I think that's just another thing where, like, at the beginning of the format, I don't know if you remember how Scythe Lock worked. At the beginning of the format, we'd see it everywhere and everyone would complain. And then at the end of the format, it'd be imaginary. Like, it just wouldn't be in the format at all.
No one...
And I think that's one thing where with like Flu, it's kind of the same thing. Like, start of a format, like everyone's playing Flu because it's a deck that's a safe pick. It's easy to play when people are trying to pick up their new deck and they don't know exactly how it works. You just play the deck that's consistent, right? Even though it can break, it's still pretty solid to play. Toward the end of a format, everyone's like, all right, we are done with Flu. We are playing other things. And so that's probably what happened with that too. Overall, I think the event was pretty fine. I'm not really surprised that Rescue only had one, like the end result, and didn't win, because I feel like the more people were prepared for Rescue, that deck's extremely mid. We haven't had, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, like what makes a good deck, but we haven't had like a good deck, like a good deck in a while. A lot of these decks that are like really crazy, if everyone's ready for them, there's like a lot of counters that really do mess up the decks.
No, I agree.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what Gary was saying. So it is very common that when a new deck comes out, you got the short period of time to read the cards, figure it out, or get steamrolled. Always repeats itself no matter what when a new deck comes out. I think the biggest thing to take away from the previous YCS is you have to remember the territory. And I always mention this. Europe is always going to be different than us. It just proves there was also a regional that took place in California. Over 600 players. There were 2 Flu in Top Cut. And Flu ended up winning that regional. So it really does show like the difference between the 2 areas. The fact that Lab had such a good conversion rate. They like their trap decks a lot in Europe. That's something I've noticed. And when you have someone like Dinka Boy, who's honestly, in my opinion, like him and Josh are like literally like the best there is really in Europe. That's just always kind of how it's been like over the years. You really just see like how far they can go, you know, not only based on like the player, but just making the right meta call. His build is very different. The profile's been up for a couple days. If you haven't seen it or seen it somewhere, I'm suggest you do, because it's very, very interesting the approach he took, like making it more like trap reliant and just really just making a different call. And he did lose to Josh in top 4. He knew mostly it was going to happen because they worked on the 2 decks. I think the meta call to just play what you want was really cool for him to win. Like, he knows the game inside and out. Like, there's no way denying it. Like, it's, you know, like beating a dead horse at this point. Like, he knows what he's doing. Master Duel, TCG, like he knows what he's doing. And it was just, you know, it was just a really cool deck to actually see it win. I think the duality inclusion really separated it from what Bestial Runic was being, because honestly, I'd never thought of it. And I think some players did. There were a couple players that posted about it, like knowing about that card ahead of time and just what you can do, like closing out games, putting up a fabled unicorn in 2023 is just absolutely crazy to me. And I'm sure everyone has seen the live deck profile. It was really, really good. Like, all his insight, like he always does, is just being able to trade a runic card when they try to do something to keep the hand size the same. Just with that interaction is just crazy to me. The fact that you were just turning everything off. So, and yeah, as they're mentioning in chat, I didn't even know about the other effect until I read duality, because I didn't know you can literally just draw a card, like, step back and draw a card. Like, just the synergy. The synergy with that deck. It was just. I mean, I don't know if you can call it a meta call, because it literally was, I'm gonna play what I want. This deck looks cool. The runic engine is powerful. There's no denying it. The Bestial cards are powerful, and everything else just kind of came together. All those synchro 10s are crazy. So I think it just all kind of lined up. Plus, you have a high caliber player, so made a lot of sense. But the conversion rates are always going to be different. Like, when we have the next American YCS, like, we're going to see a big difference. And last thing I'll say, with Vanadium, similar to what Gary said, it has a lot of flaws, but biggest thing is I think everyone's been prepared for it. Triff really put it on the map, like, big time. You get that as far as he did, being, you know, the type of player, the big personality that he is. Like, literally everyone was preparing for it. They didn't want to lose to it. They didn't want to face against it. And that's pretty much what happened. So I'm honestly not super surprised by a lot of conversion rates. I think no one predicted Bestial Runic to win, so it was the only one in top 64, but very cool that was the result. It's always nice to see something different. So,
And I think piggybacking off, and before we go to the next speaker, just a point, I think you were right as far as like the hemispheres playing differently. Like you said, Flu won over in California because there's a lot of combo over here, which Flu is like anti-combo. So that's why it does well. Whereas over in, you know, Europe, you're going against things like Labyrinth, where being able to floodgate attack position monsters isn't so much of a big point. So I think that that does also have something to do with it as well. Your area, your position, the type of players that are around. So yeah, very good point. And then Saki?
So when it came to first place, honestly, I think it was just the pilot that made Bestial Runic work. The way he played it, I don't think a lot of other players would be able to pilot it the way he did. I mean, you can watch the deck profiles and you can practice, but it's hard to kind of get to that level. What really surprised me is, even though we do have a diverse format, to see how spread top 32 was, even top 64, was just like wow to me, because I think it was like, you know, 8, 12 different decks. I did expect Rescue Ace and Lab to get a lot more than what they did for top 32, but they still, you know, performed well. I don't think anyone's too shocked. Only thing I'm surprised about is I did expect 1 or 2 Flu in top 32. I heard a lot of people were actually really happy to not see it in top 32. You know, deck is quite hated regardless of if you love it, you hate it, you're indifferent with it. Or you're like me, you just stop the first summon and you're good to go. But you know. As for Marincess, I think it was actually really cool to see it in top 64. It's a deck that is honestly quite amusing because the deck is good. You can fit a lot of non-engine in it, but it just sneaks in once in a while. I've noticed that no matter what the format is, you know, you have your die-hard Marincess players, and it kind of makes me think to myself, if that deck got like a little more support, where it would go. But overall, it was just great to see this, you know, how diverse it was. I'm kind of waiting on Konami's ban list after YCS, honestly.
Yeah,
I want to see
sure.
how
Definitely
they kind of take it. I think they might hit Runic a little harder than they might need to, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get to watch any of the YCS. I just kind of saw, like, you know, screenshots of, like, breakdowns and stuff, and, you know, you see the top 8 profiles on Instagram or whatever, and just looking at the top 64 breakdown here, I do like that it's super diverse. I know some people don't like really diverse formats, and I don't know, it just is what it is. Because I like the idea of being able to pick up any deck that's relatively good and being able to take it to an event and having somewhat of a chance on, like, tier format, where, like, you got to play this one deck or just forget about doing well. And obviously it's also pilot dependent, which explains why a deck that's as wild as Bestial Runic, which I had never heard of, like, I don't know if that was a deck that people were playing beforehand, but as soon as I saw that won, and then seeing who pilot, I was like, how, like, who even thinks of those two things and says, yeah, this goes together as a deck? Like, that kind of surprised me quite a bit. But, I mean, as somebody who's played Rika and Marincess, I love seeing them in the top, and Fernoble as well. Cashier is also wild being in top 64 too, considering how,
right.
At least, yeah, like considering, like, in my local meta and stuff like that, like, there used to be a ton of cash players, like, you'd see the deck left and right, and then it just fell off the face of the earth. But then there's just one in top cut. I think there was one that topped American YCS. It was like Indianapolis or something. It's like, who's still playing this deck? Like, shout out to those guys, I guess. And Centurion, I hate that deck too, just because it's a turn skip deck, but it is what it is. Maybe they'll like what last person said, you know, the next. Yeah, for sure. And, like, hopefully the ban list that comes out will be a big ban list and not just get like 2 things and then see you in 3-4 months. So yeah, no, it's super interesting YCS, and the winning deck is probably the biggest surprise of all, because I personally have never heard of anybody play Bestial Runic ever. Maybe I'm just living under a rock, but
no,
I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Definitely came out of nowhere. Josh is on some shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, one of the bigger things that I took away from this, as Gary was saying, about Europe and the States, North America, have very different play styles, and that came through very, very clearly. Like, there's only pseudo 2 combo decks in the top 8, and part of that, I think, is just the play style of Europe. Of they're not playing for turn 1 or 2, they're playing for 3 or turn 3, 4, and beyond. Which I think I prefer that play style, because this was by far the most entertaining YCS to watch, with sort of exception to the when tier was full power and you're watching tier matches and watching how people are sort of thinking about the different chain links. But shout out to Pac for keeping Infernoble in there. I watched his profile about sort of what he was talking about, and he's like, I lost to a really bad hand in game 3, and I'm like, that's just kind of what happens in these formats of, like, there are a lot of hand traps. Sometimes you draw. Right, sometimes you draw all hand traps, sometimes you draw all engine, and it's sometimes deck building can only take you so far in some instances. I'm surprised Dragon Link only had 1 showing, mostly because, like, that's the deck that Konami refuses to let die. I just feel like they have the best type and the 2 best attributes going for them at all times. But this was, like I said, this was by far the most entertaining YCS to watch. Every match that was on the stream was a match that it went back and forth consistently, and that's sort of the best Yu-Gi-Oh that we see.
Guys, this is more of a shout out to everybody, but can we stop showing everybody how good Tier Limits is, because we're never getting Kid Kalos back, and I would like that card back.
Apparently they don't need it.
Yeah, you and YGO too. I be seeing them on Twitter. Kid to 1, ban shifter.
Yeah, no, but aside from that, I'm loving the distribution, the amount of decks that are up here, all the engines that are bunched up together. I'm a big fan of having multiple things mushed up into one. So just seeing all these decks with like all these engines, it's fun, it's cool, and I think it's I wouldn't say like a healthy format, but it's a great format in my opinion.
No, I agree with both what you said and also what Winter said. I do like personally diverse formats. I do like when, as he said, you can pick up a deck that's just objectively strong, puts up a couple of negates, maybe 3-4 disruptions. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be negates, but it can put up a fight and go to like a regional, a YCS or something like that, and just compete with something that you enjoy playing, which is exactly what Josh did. He just took something that he said that he enjoyed playing and that he was familiar with, and just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna go play this." And this just seems like not necessarily a meta call like Slim was saying, but just something that he enjoyed and knew the interactions about, not only what his interactions were, but how they would also interact with all the decks in the format. And I think that's something that needs to be taken account of when deck building or trying to come up with like your deck of choice, as far as what you're comfortable with. I think that's actually something that might be useful for players hearing this moving forward. But speaking of that, I think one weird thing that I want to get the Market Watch professional's opinion of, so we'll just key in on them real quick before we move on, is if for those who don't know Market Watches, usually when a deck does well, something like this, an archetype or an engine does extremely well, it performs a better than expectation, things in that archetype will unexpectedly spike. You know what I'm saying? As most things do, there's a high demand for it and low supply, so things spike up. It was kind of weird for this YCS though, because although Josh won with Runic Bestial, Labyrinth is actually the deck that spiked up from this YCS, and it was crazy to see all of the spikes. The Beck Welcome Altis, the Arianas, even things that were in the tins were starting to get bought out. So just from the Market Watch, guys, is there any like reason that you guys may think that instead of the winning deck actually spiking up, that the opposing deck, the top 4 deck, actually wound up spiking, or why specifically Labyrinth in that case?
Well, I'll start it off. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I thought.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
No,
he does Market Watches too. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, my bad. That's
oh, you're good, bro. You're good.
Yeah.
All right. So like, I think the big thing is like ban lists. I think Sock even said that they're kind of headhunting Runic right now. Like they're going to hit Runic. Like they're going to. And even if it's to like, we might even see Naturio come back a little bit after that, but I think they're going to hit Runic. So a lot of people are not wanting to put their money into collector versions of Runic. And even just like, even after the reprints, we do see it is very cheap to be picking it up. So, I mean, they are low right now, but a lot of players are probably not thinking that other players are going to be picking up those cards. So if other players are not trying to hop onto that bandwagon, then like the prices won't go up. We did see things like the Unicorn did go up for Fabled, like the Synchro for like DTs. I think they like went above $20 and everything like that for like the day after. And so, I mean, that like cards like that did go up from the main deck, but I think we saw Labyrinth again, just kind of like safety measures that maybe they might get touched tiny bit on the ban list, but even over in Europe, and it is kind of like a fan favorite for a lot of players that do play Resource to be picking up Labyrinth. And I don't think we're gonna be seeing them go anywhere like anytime soon for Labyrinth.
And you got Fresh and then Saki.
Yeah, so to piggyback off what he stated, like I mentioned when looking at the chart here, just the representation, what I can take away from watching this chart, and I go again to the top 8 to harp back on it, like 3 out of 8 top decks getting, being represented by the same deck type like Labyrinth. Then the prices are going to spike up because people are going to start speculating like, okay, this is the safe bet. Like he mentioned, maybe the ban list just a tap on the wrist and things of that nature. And then most people have already the cheaper pieces. And some people that used to play the deck before already have even the expensive pieces too. So, I think that also influences the markets as well. And, let me see. So you mentioned that Labyrinth prices. Yeah, you mentioned a Runic. So Runic, like they mentioned as well, the ban list, again, ban list fears is very important in the market. People don't like buying cards that they expect that could get hit. I mean, Fountain was already touched on the ban list, and then Tip. Obviously, people think it might be, exactly. So I mean, speculation and fear usually keep people away from picking those cards up as well. The Bistio package, I think, is a great package in the sense where Magna number was already hit to 1. Some people also speculate that maybe one of the other pieces might get, slapped on the list too. So just banless fears, like he correctly mentioned, I think that's a big part of it. But Guiding Quem was spiking up though. The Starlights was making moves, as I discussed in one of my previous videos a couple of days ago, and the Secrets were already pumping too. So those were the cards that people went after. The harder to get, the ones that people don't think that the ban list might immediately touch, in the next list. So yeah.
So I fully agree with Vengeful and Fresh Off the Press. 3 out of 8, a lot more people are looking at that than just first place. I think one of the reasons why Lab shot up though, however, is that it's more of a fan favorite deck as well. A lot of people love Lab either for waifu, aesthetic, the way it plays. It's a trap deck that doesn't rely on floodgates, which is something that I think is really unique when I think about Lab. I'm like, wow, they don't have to play floodgates. That's really, really great. As well as when it comes to the ratios in our 2023 Megatins, you are way more likely to see Lady Labyrinth than the other Lab pieces, comparing to Runic, where you're going to see a lot of tips and a lot of fountains. That's why with the ultra rares, we don't see as many of the upgraded ones. We saw like Slumber getting bought out recently. Slumber's like a $3-4 ultra rare from the tins right now, and that's actually more than tip and fountain. But yeah, I'm not really too shocked to see Labyrinth go up too much. And again, ban list fears, all that.
Very good points, gentlemen. I do like that. Before we move to the next topic, Brad, do you want to do me a quick favor and just highlight some of the comments in chat right now from our live chatters while I pull up the next topic?
Well, I was just reading from Ian, actually, in the audience, who was thinking that Sky Striker might go up because they are going to be having some new support coming out on the horizon as well. So I don't know if maybe anyone had any thoughts if maybe we'll start seeing some Sky Striker back in a higher regional level capacity.
GG, don't get wet, GG. How about this? Say, don't get wet.
I had my hand on
hold on. Before he answers, GG, what do you like more, Sky Striker or Tier Elements? You can only pick one. The other one gets banned to oblivion. Other one gets banned to oblivion. Go.
Kick Hollows to 1 is it's a vibe,
This guy. You're gonna put Ray. I thought Ray was Bay, man.
Bro, have you ever activated Gyroid Effect or summoned Kaleido Heart?
No, I've never played.
It's pretty good.
All right, counterpoint. Sky Strikers has way more ultis.
So
it's seen a lot more love. Yeah.
I actually played Striker.
I'd rather have.
And when I was playing the deck, reminiscent to what my friend Craig said about Adamantipator, is you can feel the just age on the cards, like how old the cards are, right? Because none of the cards do more than like one thing. Whereas a lot of the new cards all do 100 different things. Like you summon a Fenrir, it searches, it banishes something, right? You have like an anchor that can steal, which is cool, but like if you don't have your access to Ray or like recursion, you're dead. And if your opponent makes you go first, you're mega dead. And so it's one of those things where it's like the whole gameplay has to change. Like we got the new level 1, that card's wild. That card's very good. But at the same time, it's a monster card when I'm trying to see spell cards. And it's just not what we needed. We needed like a new Mobilize. Like when I saw a new Mobilize, I was freaking out. I was like, we got it. Like this is it. This is the deck. And it sucked.
We got him.
And like even if we get 3 engage, it's just going to be an engine. Like it won't be the deck, right? So I think that they would have to overhaul Striker for Striker to be like playable again. So we'll see.
This man just wants Kit to 1 so bad.
Kit to 1, baby, let's go.
Yeah, I think that was my expectation.
If you've
anything else in the chat, Brad? Oh, me? I played it a couple times because I play decks in order to find out what the choke points are, and I've watched a couple of GG videos. But I'm thinking about playing it now. I'm thinking about crossing that line. Don't tell anyone. Secretly,
once you start,
I'm thinking about it.
Like, I used to hate the deck, and then I played it, and I'm like, I played it after everything got banned, and I'm like, bro, if this just has 1 kit, that it's still tier 0.
Too much.
Like that deck is the most powerful deck ever printed.
Yeah,
I think it'll go down in history books. a couple of mentions as well, mentioning as far as Fire King not getting more top at the regional or the YCS, especially being such like a new deck and you know very consistent from at least what I've been seeing online. So I think that is definitely. I think it'll definitely pick up as far as people playing it and all that. But then again, there's so many different packages. I'm sure that everyone's going to be wanting to be playing the wanted engine if they can, you know, manage to get it, because that's definitely like the best consistency engine. I'm also seeing here that we're going to have a duel, guys. It's going to be Vanquish Soul Joe against Sword Soul Joe.
Oh my god, yeah, for the Battle of the Joes.
Who gets the right to the name of Joe?
His Shao can't target my stuff because all my stuff bounces. So good luck, buddy.
No, I can't. All right, but moving on to the next topic. We got 2 more topics for you guys because I want to get this done before we get to lose everyone. I know we're all enjoying ourselves and appreciate everyone for showing up live, as everyone listening as well. But moving on, I just want to start looking over into the future a little bit, have a little bit of a peek into what we might be seeing as far as what we could be seeing reprinted in all of these products that we have coming up. We have a Battles of Legend coming up. We have the Megatons coming up. There's usually another Ultra reprint set. In the years past, they've done things like Maximum Gold, and last year we even had Rarity Collection, which the potential for another Rarity Collection is actually there as well with how popular it was last year. But starting from the top and going down, what do you guys think needs access in 2024 that we got released in 2023? And then for the market watchers, what do you think people should be on the lookout as far as like holding on to? Maybe they've reached their peak value and they should start looking to get rid of them, or maybe things that you should think that you should go up because you don't feel like they might get reprinted next year. And we'll start top to go bottom.
Alrighty, some of the things I think we're going to be looking forward to, at least in like reprints that we need going into 2024, is things like Kurakara Div Incarnate. I mean, right now I know it's kind of like fallen out of people's side decks in the meta, but like at some point in time, it was a very big staple in the side deck whenever we saw Cash going live. And honestly, it didn't get the reprint we kind of thought we were going to see it. It did get the OTS ulti, which was really nice. But I think we're going to see that in product in the future. Given that we're seeing the prices of Wanted, the Seeker, you know, like the Sinful Spell, like the Wanted Searcher, as well as SP Little Knight, I do believe one of those might be an OTS ulti in the future, because we do see Konami kind of going down this trend of one of the sometimes the most popular secret in the set will become an ultimate rare in the OTS. So that will kind of, it doesn't actually like really lower the value of the secret, but we do get a very expensive ulti that players have a little bit more access to potentially, since a lot of them go to locals and get these packs given to them, so they have more likely chance to pull that ulti thrust than perhaps a secret rare one, because they're just not going to get those packs. You know, they're not going to buy them. So other than that, I think, you know, maybe some, you know, more Therion reprints. You know, like I think we do see the engine continuing, whether you play the Sun Avalon or just we see Therion getting splashed in builds. And like, yeah, they were in the Megatons and such, but I think they would kind of put them in other stuff. And then perhaps going with how Vanadium was, we might see more in the future Vanadium stuff, or a Vsauce Star Frost, like maybe structure or something to kind of give it all the support in one go, so players could kind of, you know, maybe get some of the support for that.
I certainly agree. I definitely think that Vanadium, I can definitely see like probably being one of the decks that I can see getting a reprint soon. Although I feel like, because Konami loves to troll us so hard, for some reason I feel like we're gonna get like Ulti Vanquish Soul stuff, which I really hope we don't. I don't know why, but I just feel like Konami's just gonna be like, yo, here's some Ulti Vanquish Soul stuff, and I'm just gonna look at it and be like,
we are getting Rock.
We already have
Rock
did they already announce it?
So
yeah, Rock's already announced.
What's wrong with Rock?
Like I said, I don't really pay attention too much to what's coming out, you know, in the future. But I don't know. Just I felt like that's one of those archetypes that I just feel like Konami is just like, oh, we're just gonna roll this at you, and just, you know, if y'all want it, y'all want it. If y'all don't, all right,
just living in the moment. Figs is out here living in the moment.
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I didn't even realize. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those decks. It's just one of those decks that I feel like they're just like, all right, we're gonna high rarity this deck, even though, you know, there's like a small amount of people who, you know, actually enjoy the deck. But I don't know. I feel like Vanadium is probably one of the decks that I feel like probably will get the most reprints, because it's one of the. It seems like one of the most flexible. Like, there's just so many cards that the deck can ideally play, and there's so many ways that you can play it. Like, you have access to so many synchros and so many different options, as well as links and XYZs. So it's like you kind of have so many options of what you can do with the deck. So it's like, it's, you know, kind of a toolbox deck where you know, you want to have access to all the main deck cards, even though they're not really like expensive or like really high rarity, but everything says Visa Starfrost, so it's like reprint the card, you know, like Konami loves taking one card that just fits in the archetype and it's just like, oh, just take that card and just mass reprint it. So I can definitely see Manadia probably being one of the biggest ones them looking at, but I mean, they could just give us a foil Phantom Knight Wing because that's the last card I need foil in Phantom Knight. Just saying. Just saying.
Do you know what other cards say Visa Starfrost on them?
Tier cards. Oh my God, this man! Someone get this man a pill or something.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And then moving on, we got Fresh.
Power of the Elements. Some of the cards were skipped in this year's tins. So I think, you know, Sprite Blue, for example, has an OT, but maybe getting a new, you know, an ultra rare or something more accessible. Primeval Planet Paralino also is another one, or Pellerino. Man, I'm bad with names, guys. And then Kurikara, obviously, as was mentioned, and Ultimate Slayer. Just a couple of cards from Power of the Elements that I believe that should have more readily available reprints for us. Also, a card like Guilty, Gearfried, the Magical Steel Knight, you know, a super poly target. We want to make sure, you know, that we can get more access to cards like that were worth a billy, and now they're worth like 15-20x the price, if you want to make sure you have access to a card like that. And then number 90 is a card that I've been telling people to sell, because when I see a card at 80 billies, and by the way, billies means dollars, that's what I, you know, tend to say over there in my videos. $80 for a card, you know, that's probably gonna be what, like under 50s, under 40s, 30. I mean, come on now, at least half off, 50% discount, like I tend to say in my videos. Just I don't know, people sometimes like to hold on to first at OGs. I can respect that, but come on now, if you have Lubellion did the same thing. It was $80, and then like 2-3 weeks later with the reprint, it was in the teens. You know what I mean? So I like recycling purchasing power. That's what I always like to say. And if a card costs 80 billies today and you can get it for $15 tomorrow, come on now, guys. You know, number 90, that's an easy sell. And you still see people, oh, I'm gonna hold on to my, I mean, to each their own. You know what I mean? But that's a card that I would be dumping right now with the incoming reprint in Battles of Legend Chapter 1 in February.
You know what's crazy about that too is that card's not even like that good. It's like most lists that play the horse cards, they just play the zombie vampire. It's like, but we have the option to summon it. It's like, but you're not summoning it. So you're always summoning
an $80 option. An $80 option with a reprint coming in like a month or two.
That ass.
Yeah. So for me, I always try to give back as much as possible. I do a lot of giveaways on my channel. I always make sure that people that can't afford cards get cards. It's the best thing about the community. I love that. Everyone's always trying to give back. So for me, there's a lot of very mid decks right now that are extremely expensive. Shout out VengefulShad0wz, that are just like, why? Right? Like the deck is okay. It's not bad, but I would love to see reprints on things like that because it's a deck that would be a good selling point on a new set. But at the same point, just make it like accessible, right? The other thing too was I'm pretty sure that they're holding Thrust for something, right? Like it's going to sell some set in the future, whether it is Maze, whether it is the Battles of Legend, it's going to be in something. So if you do have Thrust, I highly recommend that you just get rid of them unless you really need them for a tournament coming up, because we are going into like the holiday season. We're going to get the next YCS announced. We have Vegas coming up. There's going to be a ban list sometime soon. It's a good card to own. So like the way I look at it is like if I have a staple, I'll just own that staple and accept that I'm going to take an L on it at some point, right? I bought a playset of droplets for $240. Those are my droplets since they've dropped.
That's like, it forever.
It's just like, I'm never going to move them. There's no reason for me to move them. I've gotten way more mileage out of them than I ever thought I would, right? Like, I've definitely made it back in like winning at like locals or like small tournaments or what have you. And that's something that I'm okay with, right? But I understand that, as you said, like recycling purchase power, it's really strong in the game, especially if you don't have a huge budget, to make sure that you are moving cards like that. So if you don't move them now and they get reprinted, I'm sorry.
L's on you, dog. And how about you, son?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not the product or market watch guy. I just take everything as it comes. I'm super OG in the fact that yo, reprint everything so we got an even playing ground. I want my opponent to have just have access to everything that I do. I want an even playing ground. I don't want excuses or just saying that, oh, you won because you had X card in your deck and I don't have it. I can't afford it. I love what Gary does. Like, believe me, I keep up on all his stuff. That's my boy, and he really does give back. And I'm telling you, like, stuff like that is huge for incoming players. Like, I think, like, if everything was just readily available, it would just be, I think our community would grow even more, and I think it'd be just looked at in an even more positive light. As far as cards, shout out to my team first or last. Shout out to my boy Logan. He actually got second at the YC at one of the YCSs when they had, the Rescue Ace Mir in the final. But he gave me some good ideas, just cards that make sense to me. Looking at the list, XYZ Encore. I think that's a card that, I mean, I remember this card being needed years ago, and I still had a hard time getting it. Like, even with, the resources I have, I got to shout out my boy Pete Navarro, because he literally plugs me with all the cards I need when I need them in, like, the fastest way possible. Like, literally just, I just remember this card was always needed. It was just always needed. I think I needed it. I can't even remember if it was against Ophion or something. That's how many years we're talking. Maybe it was something else. He also mentioned Ultimate Slayer, which I thought had a reprint, but that just shows you how much I keep up on product. But that card, it looks like it's sitting at least 2025. And I mean, sadly, that card, like, yeah, you can play it now that I mean, I know you're gonna riffle your feathers, but now that there's no Rise Heart, but couldn't play it for a while.
R.I.P. Couldn't a real one.
couldn't play it for a while. So and yeah, no, I 100% agree with the thrust thing. I think it's definitely on the horizon. If you can, all the signs are kind of there, and just I guess just other stuff that I literally would just mention. I guess just because we've been seeing it played more, maybe Clara and Rushka. It's a very odd card, but like just having another like readily available one. Maybe there is one, but just because you can use it to go into SP, that's what some of the decks are doing. So
yeah,
just a good option. And yeah, no, I think for the most part that's pretty much it. But my whole stance has always been just reprint everything. Yeah, just reprint. Yeah, just reprint everything so we can have an even playing ground. But then there wouldn't be a market. So yeah, can't riffle too.
So you just want anarchy? No big deal. It's all right. Anarchy for the right.
I mean, make the the playing field, like level it,
I do agree with that
really
statement.
does.
No, you're right there.
Yeah,
I don't like the excuse.
It does.
But
yeah,
there's a secondary market for it. People got.
Oh yeah. No. Oh, 100%. But yeah, no. Yes.
So Clara and Ruska was actually an OG print in Extreme Force. Hasn't seen a reprint since. Not sure why, but would be a great reprint. Especially when you look at how many reprint spots are like wasted, in my opinion. It kind of ruffles my feathers a little bit. But to talk about thrust for a second, what I would personally do is, like YGO said, like Slim said, if they're gonna use it to sell a product, there's not much in Photon Hypernova, I think it was called. There's not much they could really reprint, a Rise Hearts band, all that. I think the tins might even skip it like they did Power of the Elements. There is potential there for them to do that. But what I would do for Thrust is, since it's around about an $80 card, we do have OTS ultis at about 100. I think that if you're going to spend $80 on this, that's a good amount of money. Say $240 for a set. Maybe you get a little cheaper for $200. You might as well spend a little more and get ultis, since they're going to retain a lot of their value. And later on, if you have to get rid of cards, you have to recycle, right? Or let's just say you're a little short on bills. Those ultis, original ultis, are going to be worth a lot more than those secrets that could drop down like a lot. Compare secret droplets like OG to ulti droplets, for example. If you got ulti droplets, they're still holding a good portion of their value, even with the rarity collection hit, while as the OG droplets, they're not even holding, I think, like 15 right now, which is insane. For reprints, I'm looking at Konami doing two things here, which, first of all, they need to look at some of the decks in the room and see, is there like a card or two that's worth way more than some of the other counterparts? Like Infernoble, for example. Heritage of the Chalice has been a $15, if not up to $25 card for, I don't even know, maybe a year at this point. That would be a great reprint. You look at Sunvalin, Aromage Jasmine. I believe that is a dual overload, not even a dual power, a dual overload, 2018 set. That's like a $15 ultra. They can easily reprint that. And another thing I think that Konami is looking at, and OTS 23 kind of proved this to me, is they're looking at Edison a lot more. Edison's just a lot of money right now. I've had cards like Alley of Justice Catastor and Ulti that I got $15. Mind you, that was full price. Drew up to like 80, 90. Like, you know, a lot of these cards that were considered bulk or cheaper are just way too inflated right now. And when I looked at OTS 23 and I saw them reprint Pulling the Rug as a super rare, a card that was, no joke, about up to a $15 rare. I know Fresh can vouch for that. And they finally reprint that. We know they're reprinting it for Edison. They're not reprinting it for Modern. So they're looking at Edison for reprints, and I think that them seeing the good reception of that, we may get more Edison reprints going forward. I think that's something that Konami's also looking at, but nothing too major. I think we're going to see them sprinkled in. Yeah, you know, 2, 3, 4 cards at a time, because they see it kind of helps the set. The last thing I'm going to say really quick here, the one thing I would get rid of is Unchained. The deck is pretty good. It's got a lot of tops, but most importantly, Konami has made their money on that by far. They released, you know, their new cards in Duelist Nexus. We've got that core set a little while ago. Here, I think it's like 2 core sets old. They're gonna hit Unchained because, like, well, we made our money. It's got a lot of tops. It had its format. We're good. So I would not hold on to Unchained, especially because it's quite expensive, even for the cheaper Unchained. I mean, something that I'm completely shocked at, and I mean completely shocked, is it has a rare and a common print for Aruha. I believe that's the red one, and those are going for $2 to $3. And I'm like, that should not be a $2 or $3 common. That is too crazy. Yeah. And prisons are just insane. Ultra starting at 2025, so I'll just get rid of Unchained. Yep.
So, what about you? Want to check my bulk?
I mean, as far as reprints go, I'm sure there's like an infinite list of cards right now that I could say I would like to see a reprint for. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but the ones that come to mind are probably the most recent ones would be like SP Little Knight. Like, no one likes a card being $100, especially if it's like a staple. Yep. Like, it's one thing if it's like an obscure collector card, like an old school Alti or something. Like, that's one thing, but if it's like a current format meta staple, like, no one wants to spend $100 on a cardboard rectangle. So I think SP, the Diabellstar stuff, which I've been playing in for Noble, only because I've been able to borrow the engine from my friend who pulled it, because I'm not spending that kind of money on it. Same thing, I borrowed a second SP from him, right? Like, so just those things. And Triple Tactics Thrust would be another one, too. I have not got my hands on any of those. I've been going to locals all the time, and I don't pull any alties, so that's sadly not a strategy for me. So if your luck sucks, then forget about that route. But like, another thing too is like the rarity collection. I think what they did with that was really cool, especially considering the prices on some of the on some of those cards, like the really cool rarities, like the prismatic stuff. Like, I think that's really sick that they did that, and it would be really cool to see them do that again. And the other thing too, regarding like accessibility, I think one thing that Yu-Gi-Oh should do, and I don't think they'll ever do, just because Konami is Konami, but kind of do something like what, yeah, exactly, like something similar to what Pokemon does. Because I know some friends here in Buffalo, they play a lot of Pokemon, and one thing that they do is like they'll come out with a card that's like, it's got to be in every single competitive Pokemon deck, and it comes in a array of different rarities. Like, you can get the Giga Full Art shiny gold rare, and it's like $1 million, or you could get like the reverse foil or whatever, and it's like 20 cents, and you can play that. So like, if you want to bling out your deck, you can play the super expensive one. It holds secondary market value. Or if, you know, you want to eat that week as well and play Pokemon, you can get the cheaper version. So I think it'd be cool, like, if SP Little Knight came out as a secret in the set, but you could also pull it as a super or a rare, whatever. Yeah. Something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
Giving the options to the consumer, I think, is good. Yeah. No, but like, you're right. Giving the options to the player base would be something I think would make more sense. You're right. In that
instead of being like, go for it. Yeah, instead of being like what they did with the BLS link, we're like, it's gonna come out as a secret rare, then we'll make it an alti, and then we'll get you guys a ghost rare for the third print. That was fucking sick.
Yeah, and then you'll be an alti after that.
Yeah.
After that. Piggybacking off Winter, what you were saying, the other cool thing that Pokemon does is, despite having set rotation, as long as the card's in the format, you can always play it. So even if you buy the super nice, super expensive rare one, if the it'll always be in rotation, and I appreciate that they do that. Related to Yu-Gi-Oh, one thing that I'm hoping that Konami does is get a little more consistent on whether we're getting unlimited waves of stuff or not. I feel like, to me, that feels so frustrating that randomly some sets will get
That's a good point.
unlimited waves. So it's like, all right, you're gonna like that, and then that turns the reprint clock off for those cards essentially for a very long time. So I'm just hoping that there's some kind of consistency there. I think while the rarity collection was a start, I think we're potentially due for a Duel Devastator like set, especially with, and I'm surprised they didn't do it when Master Duel came out, because so many new players came in, and that would have been the perfect time to be like, here's every competitive card you're gonna need, and here it is in one set, in one rarity, and everybody can play with it. Because I remember when Duel Devastator came out, I was getting back into the game, and that got me everything that I needed to get started again. But for newer players, especially in the before rarity collection, it was like, good luck finding an affordable version of any competitive card, because you're just gonna have to keep finding them. While I don't know if they'll do this because it potentially messes with the ban list, for those who play Magic, I just have recently gotten into like Commander format. Magic has a thing called the Reserve List, which is essentially a set of cards that are never. Wizards of the Coast has said they are never reprinting these cards, and Konami only has one card on the list right now. But I'm hoping that at some point Konami says, here is a banned card collection, because the amount of times that a card comes out off the ban list and it's like, by the way, this card's only been printed like 2 times, and it's one of them's 15 years ago. Right, one of them's a secret, and the other came in a video game. So good luck finding any of those. I'm hoping that in some shape or form we get, because I think that would be a cool product, like the Pot collection, where it was like, we know that Pot of Greed is a meme, we know that everybody knows this card. Let's see if we can get some other value out of those cards. Those are some of the things that I'm hoping for. Just like, I know it's tough to ask for it, but just
nothing
a
but
little
the best
more
coming
consistency.
from now. No, I agree. Everything.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
One thing that I don't understand why Konami is not doing, because they used to do this with banned cards, is at least when they come off the list, you can expect a reprint like somewhat soon, within 6 months, at least something announced. And I look at the cards that were coming off the ban list, stuff from like Den Long, and they don't care. They're not doing that. Even Substitute, if people want to play Substitute, that's like a $25, $30-ish rare. It's got, I think, 1 printing only back in, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Gladiator's Assault, I could be incorrect. And they really do need to give, like I said, by the way, great point, Mel, they need to give us some type of either banned collection, or at least be on top of when they unban a card to give us it back, because they don't unban a crazy amount of cards every 3-4 months. Sometimes we get 1, sometimes we get 2, sometimes we get none. They could fit that in somewhere pretty easily.
And we, as he said, know that it's coming too. So, and then close us out with that one, Mr. Vanquish Soul Joe.
Oh man, all right, a lot of great takes, and pretty hard to follow up. But honestly, for me, yeah, right. For me, it would be the rarity spread on how we have it, and I'm sure we touched this already. But like how we had Centurion just come out, and every single card is an ultra. It's like it makes the deck almost inaccessible for people that want to play it. And I have a feeling that might have partaken into like the recent toppings for the YCS. Not a lot of people wanted to touch that deck, even though like it does what it does, occasionally, but it didn't it wasn't accessible. So like maybe back in the days how we used to have like two of the cards be ultras for each archetype, as opposed to just dipping into one whole deck itself and making it inaccessible. I was looking forward to playing Centurion, not the Calamity version, but if it's there, I would have done it.
This guy. And then going into our last topic today, because I know GG's got to leave sometime soon. This man's got to go 3P his regional tops. But the last topic actually comes to us from adaptation of Yu-Gi tuber MBT. So for those who don't follow him or don't know who he is, he's a Yu-Gi tuber who usually does streaming on Twitch and whatnot, and he actually does conversation videos and discussion videos as well. And he had one where he had dropped expressing to his audience that his opinion on there's no such thing as a quote-unquote good deck there are just decks that are optimal in the format and are not optimal in the format that we're currently in. And just going top to bottom real quick, I just want to run down and just see, does anyone have an opinion or disagree with that claim that there is no such thing as a good deck because, a ban list could come, maybe a new card that's printed out that counters that deck, power creep, yada yada. But do you agree that there is no such thing as a good deck forever, or there's just decks that come in and out?
Ghost Tricks are always a good deck. I'm going to start with that. All right, I think we can agree with that. But
meta.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think unless it's like a tier 0 deck, I mean, that statement can kind of be had. It's like, yeah, every format or a couple formats, you're going to have the decks rotate out, of course. I mean, it's kind of what's going to happen, whether it's a rotating format or not, which, we know Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't. But I think tier 0 decks, like, GG still loves tier elements, and they're still very good, and they're still just a couple cards off the list from just being back at that level. Maybe not quite where they were, but I mean, decks that have been tier 0, whether that been Dragon Rulers up until they were banned, or tier elements now, they still have weight in the metagame until they're kind of fully removed from the algorithm. So I think most decks are not like, they're just format dependent, but there are a few outliers like E-Dragons and tier elements.
Okay, good points. Figs?
Well, I'll definitely keep my very biased, opinions on specific decks out of the matter, but I definitely think that it's more for me about consistency. I think that there are some decks that can just perform based on the accessible resources that the decks are printed at the time that they're made. So, like, I mean, you look at Tier Element, like, the deck was insane when it first came out. You could just about play, like, a couple different engines in the deck, and it would just function really well. And then Konami, for some god-awful reason, just decided to print Shizu cards. And then it was like, oh, now this deck is absolutely insane. So it's like, the consistency of what the decks are basically getting due to the support, either in the set that they are released in, or the sets after, in my opinion, are what make them optimal. I don't think it's necessarily just the idea that the deck is good across the board. I think that, again, sometimes sub-engines do allow, certain decks to function better than others, but, we've had our time. I mean, I definitely agree. Like, decks like Tier Element and decks like, Dragons have always just kind of had that consistency across the board. They kind of always get support because of the fact that, generically, graveyard cards are good, or, dark cards are good, or light cards are good. So it's like, you always have this like plethora across the board where it's just like consistency based on, the different decks, that different types of support that they're giving, just work. So I don't know. Like I said, I think for me, it's the consistency. I think that when the deck comes out, if it has the support it needs, it'll do really well. And then of course, everyone decides to start playing cards to combat, allowing those decks to remain consistent and, do as well as they should. So, like I said, for me, it's all about consistency. I don't think that a deck just remains good, or is just good in what it does. It's all about basically, the ban list, neutering it, or, the deck just being as good as it is, just, off printing.
For me, I mean, a good deck is all about what can it do. If it's like a toolbox, if it can play through, certain negates, certain things, just the persistence that a deck can show when being faced, through a diverse option of different decks. When you go to an event, you play 10, 11, 12 rounds, just a piggyback. Obviously, consistency is where it's at, but also just persistence. This could be considered as a synonym in a sense, or just being able to play through, to push through. You get ashed. Oh, you get called by the grave, you get crossed out, this or this happens. Like, just having options, having that toolbox where, like, okay, this happened, but I can pivot, I can change this, or now I can use this card. Where the bad decks, they have one playthrough or two ways to play the deck, but the good decks, in my opinion, even like tier limits, they get hit in the list, but they still have so many different ways and options and things to do to still get it done, to still get the dub. So I mean, for me, that's what I consider to be a good deck, is a deck that has persistence, that can play many different ways, and that just can play through hand traps and negates and things of that nature and still get that dub.
I think that, so like, I've already had this conversation with Peeps in a video. We did a huge thing about this, talking about like what makes a deck good and what have you. I think that overall, it's one of those things where if you have a deck like Tier Element, clearly like cards are just already absurd, right? And even when we got Mama, like the cards were obviously even better, but before that, it was already topping. For me, it's a deck that can just play through as many interruptions as you need to without having to use non-engine. I think the stronger that your deck is when you sit down and can go second without non-engine, it's the better deck. For me, like at the regional Indianapolis, my last round, I broke Fenrir SP double Emperor Gearfried Angel Ring with a tier hand. And it's one of those things where a lot of that like is just insane, right? There was a little bit of non-engine tied in there, but there also was quite a bit of engine that I was using to just go ahead and like kind of just pick apart the board, you know, which is really important to me. It takes a lot for me to sit down and really like want to play a deck. Because if I know for a fact that I need to see non-engine to win a game going second, I'm not playing that deck at all. It's not happening. That's why we see Pack's list, the Infernal list that he did really well with before, very different list than what we've seen. A lot of non-engine added to that deck because we need to make sure that when we go second, our combo deck does not die. And that's one thing where you can mitigate the board small enough to where you can combo. And so for me, it's still fine. Like if you have to add in a lot of non-engine for your deck to work well, but if you have a lot of room for non-engine, that also tells me your deck is pretty solid. I don't think that it's real to say that a deck isn't good. Like there's no like good decks overall. Because like if we do like a grand timeline of all the decks that have ever been a deck, right? And then we put them into today's timeline where everything's legal. Goki would not have done what Goki did with as many interruptions and board breaks today. It would not have been the same deck at all. Today is when tier limit was going absolutely insane, right? Like granted, you have cards like Shifter that are just problematic. I hate that card, get banned. You know, whatever. But granted, we have all of those crazy cards that would just like destroy the older decks, even like Guard Dragon, Thunder Dragon, whatever you want to call it. That deck would have gotten thrashed with what we have today. Tier Limit survived that and was the best deck, undisputed. Like, to me, that's a crazy-ass deck. And I think that's one thing where, yes, we do have good decks. Unfortunately, there are very few and far between. One of them is called Tier Limit. So it did break that argument. I would say before we got Tier Limit Mama cards, I would say probably not. But since we got something like that, the only thing that I wish Konami does, and this is the same argument that everyone ever has when I talk about Tier Limit, is they go, we do not need a deck like Tier Limit. Why can't we just print more decks like Tier Limit and have a whole new bar for what a good deck is? If there was 4 decks in the room that all played like Tier Limit, nobody would have complained. Obviously, like different functionality, right? You're not all fusing from grave or whatever. The same power level, though.
Ceiling, yeah.
Right. If we could have a better ceiling, because I'm kind of tired, honestly, of playing a lot of decks that we just look at them all in a format. We're like, these are all tier 2 decks. Like Hartford format, where it was like Sword Soul and Striker and everything. Every deck in that format was tier 2. Every deck in that format was tier 2. I would prefer to have a format where the power ceiling is actually strong. But that's just me. I know a lot of people feel very differently, but that's just my take on the whole situation.
So before we move over to Slim, I know that we're going to be losing you, GG, just because you got to get some rest for your 3-peat for tomorrow. So you want to get any shout outs or any final thoughts out right quick before you got to take off?
Don't change your deck list like me last second. Definitely don't recommend it. So
hey, don't be like
Paul I think that it's one of those things where you have to evaluate a format, and as much as I want to run the same exact list going from event to event, getting second and fourth, Fire King is a deck now, Runuk's being looked at, and if I don't walk in that room tomorrow with Cosmic Cyclones on my sideboard, I think I get just tossed around in the room, and that's one thing where I don't want that to happen. If you play against Centurion, it's solid. If you play against Fire King, their end boards like Sunlight Wolf IP, draw phase Cosmic Fire King Island, blow up their board, they summon Garunix, who cares? Combo kill. There's a lot of things that you're allowed to do where I don't want to see like an Appaloosa summoned on me, right? That and like Crow. Crow objectively does more into Labyrinth because you can clear the Coup Clock. It does more into Fire King. It does more into a lot of different decks. So if you have, I see this happen all the time with people before events. They're like, oh, I don't know if it's the correct choice. Like, go with your instinct. Like, if you think in the room of 9 rounds that you're going to be seeing a really crazy spread of everything, make the call. Because if your side deck is too geared, like I was really afraid of Pearly, and I always had Xyz Encore at my side. The second I pulled that card out, I've not played against Pearly in 17 rounds. So I definitely think that there's a lot of warrant to being too afraid of a certain deck, but there's going to be variety. prepare for variety. Shout out to everyone that watches the channel. I appreciate you all. Gonna keep chugging along until we hit 30,000. You know, it's the next big goal. Very exciting, and I appreciate all of you for having me today. A lot of fun conversation. All of you had really great points, and 3P tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Before you guys leave, I think I see WinterKillz here. He said wild take. I'm curious. Is that because of the shifter you said need to get banned?
I was talking about what were we talking about? Oh, it was the MBT thing. Yeah. No, it was the MBT thing. Even though I think shifter should be banned too. Fuck that card.
I was about to say, all right. I don't know how you think that's a wild take. I think you're on that same wave. All right, but thank you so much for joining us.
Question, if possible. One question before he leaves. You know, just how many all of us have been on YouTube? You know, he's mentioned 30K and things of that nature. Just wanted to know, like, before he leaves, like, how long have all of us been on YouTube? Just quickly, you know, just to have that insight. Like, some people maybe months, other years, other decade, you know, whatever. You know, so just a question I had for you guys.
So I've been on for 4 years. I started, so I didn't take it seriously beforehand. I posted like a video here or there just to like do it, because people would always ask me for like advice. So I would just be like, I'm just gonna make a video about it and throw it up there, and then I'll just link you the video instead of repeating myself 100 times, you know? And then I started posting content, and I was really pretty happy with content, but I couldn't figure out the algorithm. And I had full-time college, full-time work, moving out. There's a lot going on. I was gonna quit doing YouTube. Just couldn't really keep up, and honestly, just too many other things were taking precedence at the time. So my friend said, before you cut the channel, make one video, put everything you got into one video, and then post it. And if it does well, stick around. And I said, okay. So that is where to hand trap. It was already a video, but that one in particular, I took as much time as possible, this whole video together, posted it, went into my kitchen, had a sandwich, and I was sitting there, I was ready to eat. And I remember this so vividly. The second I lifted it off the plate, my phone started vibrating like crazy. And I was like, what is going on? I thought I was getting like phone calls, and I was like flipping it and seeing like notifications. I was getting like emails, like notifications. And when I was finished, I looked at the view count. It was at 18,000 views in like a couple hours. And I was like, that's insane. My sub count was up 2,000, 3,000, and then it kept going. And so that alone was really important for me as like a turning point to like know that people really like the content. And that's one thing I'll never take for granted. It was awesome. So my huge thing is that, you know, if you ever look at a count on a video and you see it as low, realize that people still watch that video, and those people are still watching your other videos, and eventually other people will also watch those videos. It did take about 2 years for my channel to really kick off, but 4 years total and going strong.
Awesome. That's impressive. Thanks for sharing, man. And yeah, I still want to know everyone else, but obviously he has to go, you know.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah. So,
you already know what to do, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having on. I'll definitely be reaching out to you. Thank you. And then we're gonna move over to Slim. I'm gonna have him say back on topic. Do you agree with there being a no such thing as a quote unquote good deck? And then I know you have to bounce out too with your fiance, so you can give your take on how long you've been here as well before you did.
Since the beginning of time, basically. But on a like serious note, I actually do disagree. I love you, Joseph, but I disagree. Like I played in every format, as everyone knows, minus Necros, which was undoubtedly the best deck, like a good deck. There's pretty much what Gary said, like there's gonna be a good deck every format. There's been a good deck since the beginning of time. Like if you've watched Yu-Gi-Oh history, there's always a good deck. Like it doesn't matter what anyone says, you can try to make the argument that a deck isn't, you know, really initially good, but if it's winning consistently, if a lot of the main deck is not changing and you're just changing, you're changing a couple cards here and there, you just can't deny it. Like You have your GOAT formats, you have your Edison formats. Like, like Edison format, okay, that's super. There's a ton of good decks, but even they're at a point now where they know what the best deck is. I think according to Fraser, I think it's something with frogs. I think it's Hero Frogs or something like that. I might be a little far behind because I do try to keep up on Edison too, since I did play through that too and live through that. So that was interesting too. But no, I think that I think the biggest thing is that a good deck will get established by the player base, by the community, and it'll be recognized as a good deck. Like, you'll have those one-off wins. I think the most random one, which was cool as hell, was when World Chalice won that YCS in Europe. Like, it was the most random thing. And then everyone could say, oh my God, World Chalice is a good deck. We're not saying it's a bad deck, but it was just the pilot. There were so many factors as to why it did well. But formats are named after the best deck. Like Teledad, you can't tell me that Teledad was not a good deck. Like, if you were entering a real tournament without Teledad, you were playing to lose at that point. That's really the truth. And I have to say, like, Dragon Ruler format, while it was established as the best deck, you could play other decks. But, tier element, pure power tier, like, literally, like, you just kind of knew you were kind of going in with a handicap, to be honest. So I do disagree. I think that there are good decks. They are going to be established. The community will, kind of make it evident that they are good decks. And basically, every format, it pretty much changes. Like, some decks may linger a little longer. Like, some will come back as the best deck. I think Striker is like a huge, like most wanted for that. Like, they definitely have come back, and I think that that's what's going to continue to happen. Like, you see what's happened with Tier. It's had a resurgence, even with all the hits it's taken. Like, they're still even trying to play it in the OCG. So, like, the deck is still considered good. It's still considered decent. Is it considered the best deck? No. Is it up there? Absolutely. But I think that there always will be a good deck established, by the community player base. And it'll just change time to time. Like, there's no denying that even though Rescue Ace lost in the finals, it was still projectively the better deck. But the way the game's played out, everyone's going to think Bestial Runic is the best deck of the format, and it is not. It is a good deck. It is a decent deck, but taking all the other factors. And then,
no, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's just my take on that. And then, yeah, I've been
10
on
toes down, standing on business.
Yeah, and no, basically, yeah, I've been around since 2011. As wild as that is to say. Yeah, it's yeah, and it was just, it's something I wanted to do when I discovered it. I thought it was really cool, talking about something that we're all obviously passionate about. Just kind of giving our own opinions, taking it from what I thought at the time was like a different perspective, trying to be, a little casual, a little competitive, realizing that I just really do reside with the competitive content. That's just how it is. It's very hard to kind of deviate from that after all these years, but to me it was just a fun hobby to do, and that's really what it is. And to me it's just cool to still come on here and being what I can pretty confidently say, being a veteran, I can really say I've seen it all, I've experienced it all. I've even been to Worlds in 2013 or whatever year it was in Vegas. So I've seen the big stages. I've seen all the cool stuff. So I've really lived like a good part of my life, like seeing, the game for what it is. And I just think it keeps getting better. Like, I'm pretty optimistic with it. I think that they're just going to find more and more ways. Like, there's going to be new cards, going to be new decks, but it's, just something. And then people ask me for advice. I'm not a full-time content creator. I never wanted to be. I never will be. I have a career. I have, things that I do. I just do this on the side for fun. And it's just to, keep up with the game, give, my audience what they want. But my best advice is make the content that you enjoy. And Gary really gave a lot of good advice. I think that's really what it is don't be discouraged. Don't let everything be dictated by your numbers, because that doesn't mean anything. I'll be straight up honest. I think my numbers are shit, but do I care? No, because I can walk into an event and I can know 98% of that room. And that's what it is for me. Like Johnny and I know pretty much everybody. We've spoken about this before. Like, you give us a top cut list, we'll know about 95 to 98, maybe even all top 32 or top 66, top 64 players that we've been around this long. So it really just comes down to just make the content you like, don't focus so much on the numbers. unless you're a Market Watch channel, shout out to you guys, because the numbers really matter there. But yeah, honestly, like, talk about what you want to talk about. Ask your audience. I would say that's a good thing too. Ask your audience what they really want to see, because they're the ones that are watching you and supporting you, and maybe you'll discover something new, along the side. And, don't be afraid to try something new. Even if it doesn't do well in the beginning, give it time. And I think that way you'll just really kind of, you'll really kind of find like what makes you happy making the content. And don't expect to blow up overnight. Don't expect to be a full-time content creator, because knowing all of them like I do, I can tell you, even though they do it, even though it looks easy, even though it looks like the ideal, the dream job, if you want to call it that, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know what they're going through in between. And I mean, they really, took, I would call it a risk doing something like that, especially, unfortunately, with Yu-Gi-Oh, we are just not going to be as big as, some of these other topics on YouTube. We're a very, very small niche community. Yeah, niche. Yeah. So it's really just, do it for the right reasons. Don't look at it as a get rich quick scheme, to be honest, because you're not going to make anything. Like, to be honest, like, all the time you have to put into it, do it for the right reasons. And I think that's, like, honestly the best advice I can give, because, just do, just keep it real. Like, that's just, there's been a honest thing. That's always just how I've been. And don't create a persona. If you're like me, don't create a persona that's not you at outside at events. Like, be the same person, and like, people will always remember that. They'll always just know, like, yo, I'm exactly the same as I am here, as I am at an event. I mean, that's just advice. Like, I mean, I have to say, like, I am old in this community. I've been around a really long time, and I've seen a lot of things. I've learned a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, just don't be afraid to take losses in this game. Like, I learned so much from my losses. I lose a lot. Like, let's cut the shit. I lose a lot, and I learn a lot in the process. And, same thing with content and everything. Like, you'll learn a lot, from your least performing videos to everything. And, you'll just eventually find a way to perfect your craft in a sense. So, yeah. So whether you're a small channel, whether you're an established channel, keep doing what you're doing. If you enjoy it, like I always say, like, if you're, in that sense, you're winning, how are you ever losing? So that's all I got. But
that's right.
yeah, but I just want to thank you guys. You guys are all awesome. Before I go, if any of y'all are ever down to collab, hit me up either here on Discord or whatever.
I want to say one thing real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Before
Go
we
ahead.
went.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
first of all, bro, I love your content. I
Thank
thought you were uploading at like 2010. So when you said 2011, I'm like, oh, there's no way I caught him the first year, because I'm 25 years old, right? So I remember when I was 10 years old, okay? Like 10-year-old Saki over here, clicking on Slim, watching the Rescue Rabbit deck profile, going like, dude, bro, I gotta get Forbidden Lances.
I still got those rabbits. Thankfully.
Really, you do? That's awesome.
I do. I kept a couple things because I did actually move a lot of my collection, but I did keep my rescue rabbits because those are just so sentimental to me. And obviously I kept my Minerva because Johnny would never let me live it down if I got rid of it. Unless it becomes worth a house one day, then I think we'll both. I think we'll
you'd have
get
to
rid of
convince
ours.
him. Yeah, for sure.
We'll get rid of ours. We'll get rid of ours at the same time.
You could rent it out together.
pretty much.
Well, appreciate your time, Slim. I know you got some things you got to do. I'm gonna let you guys go. We're gonna follow through with the rest of the topics for everyone else, and then at the end, I'm gonna have questions and answers from the chat, and then we'll also start with the rest of Fresh's, how long you guys been here and how long you guys been doing YouTube. So appreciate you coming on, man. I would definitely make sure we reach out to you to your more work in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. By all means, like I said, my messages are always open. If anyone's down, I'll always, always glad to help out and give back. So y'all have a good one.
Can vouch.
Yeah.
Can vouch.
Peace out, y'all. Later. Thank you again. See you guys later. Take care.
So moving to Saki quick, we're gonna go over to like I said, just a quick thing on do you agree with
what's a good deck? Yep.
Yeah, what's a good deck? We're gonna follow through with that all the way through from you to winner, and then we'll do the
first thing I'm gonna do. First thing I gotta do is I have to admit this fully, and some people might not like this. This is kind of a semantic question, in my opinion, because like, what's a good deck? That's a subjective question. Everybody's going to say something different, right? The question is more to prop up discussion rather than to find an answer, if that makes sense. At least that's how I see the question. Now, but to answer it in my own ways, what I think is a good deck is simply staying power, right? How long can it be relevant in this game, in and out, right? For example, we'll always see well, at least I thought we would see strikers more in and out, right? Not so much lately in the last year, but more in and out. We've seen tier staying as well. And one deck that I would consider, probably in my opinion now, I'm going to get really hot here, probably the most broken archetype of all time, and something I definitely consider a good deck with its staying power, is Zodiac. Even when, like years after its reign, when we got Zeus and Phantom Rage, we started seeing Zoo pop back in just because it was able to loop Zeus with like multiple materials. I believe it's actually gotten a few top 32s back during around the Phantom Rage era, and Konami saw that, and that's why I think in the it was either the same list or back to back, we got a Barrage and a Trident ban again, and they brought back Trident at one point, banned it again. It's all really about staying power, and that's kind of how I would personally answer the question when it comes to like meta relevancy. What is a good deck? You know, a deck that also can't really come back from the ban list. Like, oh, you give it one card, like Tier, for example, right? Even if it goes to like, you know, be a weaker deck, let's say we didn't give it Kit and then we give it Kit. Does it bounce right back? It does. Well, it's a good deck, you know. With Zodiac, right? Since we got Centurion released, people are saying if Centurion would be a much better deck if we got a Zodiac Trident to one, right? Not even Barrage, just Trident, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if we could get just one card back, you know, that's kind of a good deck. That's kind of how I see it personally.
And then winner.
So let's see here. I think what Saki said
with
I think what he said about it's just something to prop up discussion, definitely I agree with. Like, it seems like kind of just like an obvious, like a question that just has a super obvious answer, like yeah, like such thing as a good deck. Like, obviously there is such thing as a good deck. Like, to say there's no such thing as a good deck is just like a super like weird take, just to have a take and then just to make a video about it and have it get a bunch of views, a bunch of comments, and a bunch of shares or whatever. Like, that's one thing. Like, I don't have any issues with somebody trying to do that, but like I think that's just such a stupid take and a dumb question. Like, obviously there are good decks. Like, Tier is obviously a good deck. Just to say that like it's not a good deck just because it can get hit or the format changes or so many years go by, and it's not like that doesn't change the fact that at one point it was a really good deck. It was the best deck. It's like yeah, I don't know. That seems like a very looking too far into the weeds type deal for that kind of question. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have anything else to say about that other than that, like, and like what everything everyone else said already too is like, you know, what qualifies a good deck: consistency, staying power, just power level overall. Same thing. Yeah, I think that's kind of a dumb take, honestly. I don't know.
What about you, Mel?
I think when I saw this question and I watched the video, I kept thinking it's hard to say, like, yes, there are good decks. Tier 0 decks are good decks. I think there's saying if it's a good deck or not eliminates the idea of like how the pilot is, which I think a pilot changes. Like, some pilots can completely alter the level of a deck. Like, if I gave GGYGO Mech Knights, he'd probably bring that to a tier 1.5 just because of sort of the deck life and the deck style. But I think when I heard this question, I thought more about engines and what engines like how many decks are propped up by engines. So I just did some math about the top 64 of the most recent YCS, and Sinful Spoils was in 47% of the top 16. So like, that engine is a good engine, and some of the decks in there would not have been there without that engine. So I think when we think about whether a deck is good, we have to factor in how many engines does the deck need to be good. Because like right now, if you played pure tier elements just by itself, even with the millers and the shufflers, it's not gonna. It needs other things to prop it up. It's not gonna run pure, partly because it doesn't have enough of a deck. It doesn't have enough engine to keep going. But throwing in extra engines creates the good deck. And I think for me, thinking there are some decks that some archetypes and some types that will just always be good. Like dragons will always be good. Misk will be, or dinosaurs will be good, are good the only reason dinosaurs are where they are right now is because Misk is at 1. If Misk is at 3, dinosaurs launch up at least
instantaneously good.
Like,
yeah,
it's just because there are some cards that some archetypes have that are just so much stronger than everything else, and even ones that were printed a long time ago. Like Barrier Statue of the Winds was printed so long ago, and it took
Impact.
Yes. It was printed so long ago, and then Flu came out, and it becomes a super dominant card. It launches the deck up. So I feel like it's hard to say whether a deck is good without also understanding the pilot and the different engines and cards that go into a deck.
Always the best for Mel. I love you, Mel. And then closing out, we got Vanquish Soldier.
Hey. Okay, so I think there is such a thing as a good deck, but it's based on many attributes. Like Mel said, it's the player. Aside from the engine, I also think it's a part of its environment. So like, what are the cards that are currently out? If a deck puts out a strong board, well, like with monster negates, obviously if you're playing Dark Ruler no more, you get destroyed. So it has so many factors to it. So I do think there is such a thing as a good deck. It's just relevant up to what it's in the environment at the current moment that you're playing with,
No, I agree with actually everyone. Even Slim, who isn't here right now, but even just him disagreeing with it, just saying flat out, no, there are good decks and there are results to prove this, and you guys are just all smoking crack. So I can understand that point, but I do objectively get that. Hey, yeah, this deck is good because of this. I think GG was also right where he said, if I take any powerful deck, if I take Teledad in its entirety, the way that deck is back then, and put it right now into this format with everything at that deck legal, it stands no chance. You know what I'm saying? So it's a product of their environment, and I think the environment's ever changing, so obviously the products are forever going to be changing. But that's just my own viewpoint. But before we start closing out this episode, I just want to get the chat a little bit of interaction, a little bit of time to ask their questions. So while we're answering the prior questions, I want the chat to start asking all of your questions. You guys can @ specifically who you're asking the questions to make it go a little faster. I'm going to go, everyone's going to go from top to bottom saying how long they've been on YouTube. And I think another question I saw was one advice if you wanted to be a YouTuber, try to keep them probably close to like 2 minutes. And then while we're doing that and that runs through, Brad, I'm going to have you check the chat and everyone can @ their content creator that they want to talk to, they got a question, a statement about, and then we will actually have you come up and raise your hand and come speak of it, and we'll have Brad put you up there. If you don't have a microphone, you don't have to raise your hand. You can just type it in chat, but you can, if you raise your hand if you want to ask it as well. So we'll start from the top. And how long you been on YouTube? One piece of advice.
YouTube, I think it's been like 1.5 years, 2 years at this point since I did my first video, but like this last year itself has actually been where I started consistently posting. In the community, I definitely started playing when like Metal Raiders was out. I remember like my first pack was an ultra rare Change of Heart, so that was actually really sick. Like just the artwork of Yu-Gi-Oh is what actually got me into it. And we used to do a lot of streaming for Yeti Gaming Live way back in the days, like 2013, for like E-Dragons and stuff like that. So that was a long time ago. So we did that for like the local scene and even did like one regional stream way back when. But as far as like YouTube scene, it's only been about 2 years and 1 year inconsistent. And anything I'd say going into like newer YouTube, make sure it's something you're enjoying. Don't just make something that you're like, oh, this is what people are going to click on. Make it something you enjoy talking about. Make it something that you don't mind doing every single day, and then keep consistent. I think number one is consistency through everything.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Consistency is key in anything. We got Figs. I think you muted, Figs.
You're right.
Yep, now you're good.
My bad about that. So yeah, I mean, I've been in the YouTube channel. My channel's been around since 2022. I got back into playing, I think like 2021 after stopped playing in like 2016. Decided to start making content because I, brought back Old Faithful, playing 2015 decks. But yeah, my channel is very niche. I definitely enjoy, doing more niche content. It's definitely, I mean, I do post, a lot of my winnings and stuff, and when I do well, even if I'm not playing, Phantom Knights or anything else. Very rare I do play something other than it, unless my deck is utterly unplayable in the format. But I stick to one deck. I'm not big on deviating because I like to spend a lot of time. So I definitely suggest, with content, I do like watching, a couple of competitive people, and I think it's more just on the type of content that they're posting is more niche. I like niche content. For me, it's more about, sticking to specific topics and being able to provide, content that's very specific to, what you need. Because a lot of us, a lot of times, like, I'm not a fan of watching stuff that I'm already like competent in. Like, for me, it kind of feels like a waste of time if I'm going to watch a video about, something that I already know about. So I do like niche content, and I definitely think that, it's not as good in the YouTube space because of the fact that, not everyone wants to watch content about, Phantom Knights, or no one wants to watch content about Sword Soul or, Vanquish Soul. But in the same regard, there are people who do care, and sometimes your points, even though they are very specific and very niche to a specific topic, sometimes can help with certain things that people are struggling with. So, definitely be mindful of that. I've gotten a lot of good feedback in terms of just my opinions, because sometimes, again, they're not always, very one-sided. I tend to have a pretty broad spectrum, even though I am, on one thing. But like I said, it's been a year, and I feel like it's been a good journey so far, and hopefully I can continue to have that journey on YouTube. So
there you go. I agree. Appreciate that. And then Fresh.
Yeah, well, in 2 weeks is like 10 months. Yeah, I'm the rook. I always used to watch House of Champs, V, I always shout them out, watch their market watch content. Also, before meeting Saki, saw a couple of his videos as well, just so informative. Always, all three of them. And obviously, there's more market watchers out there and things of that nature. But, from them, that's where the inspiration came from. Just adding my own touch to it. Just analyzing the markets. I've always been attracted to the markets, cards, just the moves they make, just the possibility to buy penny stocks, 2, 3x, 4, 5, just that potential to buying the dollar card, sell it for 10 down the line. You know what I mean? So that's what I was mainly always attracted to. And, it's a pleasure to be able to have my, little but community, just putting myself out there. And like Fixed Form said, just being niche about it. Market watchers have a reputation where, they're not that good anymore. People, prefer more mainstream content, things of that nature. But it's like, y'all been saying, yeah. No one's paying attention to it, but it's about doing what we love. You know what I mean? So if we're having a good time and we believe we're providing value, to me, that's everything. And then I try and do daily videos as well, at least for now. You never know. I'm just to try and stay consistent and put myself out there. And, it's been a blast. So yeah, I can't wait to reach a year now in about 2 months, celebrate that, and then just keep going. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And Saki, how long you been on? What's one piece of advice you give to these guys?
So I've been on for, I'm going to say 5 years. The channel was created a little bit beforehand, but as it's TeamSakurasou, but it's mostly just me. I only posted a little bit here and there with my friends. I never really took it too seriously until a little bit in 2019. I tried to be a little more consistent with stuff, but in 2020 is when I really sat down and really focused on it, because number one, we had COVID, right? So I had way more time. And I like YouTubing. It's just being in college, all that. I didn't really have the time. And one thing I did, and I'm going to highlight this as a mistake before I answer what you should do, is I looked at it as in I should have a certain amount of uploads just to see if I can get somewhere. In reality, I should have sat down and figured out some of the stuff I really want to do and really want to love for the channel. But I didn't really do that. I kind of treated it a little more as a grocery list in 2019. And in 2020, when I really sat down, was like, you know what? I want to do market watches. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's when a lot of the success, the love, and the passion all just came, everything essentially came together. So I really want to say I started YouTubing in 2020, especially because, that's just, again, when I felt like I was I took it more seriously. I don't know really how to describe it more, but my advice would probably be is if you want to do Yu-Gi-Oh for your YouTube, make sure you really love this game, because if you're doing it and then you get burnt out within a year or a year and a half, you're gonna regret it, right? You're not gonna be happy with it. As well as you need to realize at the start, and I think this is for all YouTube genres, but especially something that's more niche, is you need to sit down and realize that you're going to be doing it for yourself and to have fun or to grow a community and just relax. Realize that you are not guaranteed a single thing, right? No one's guaranteed to do you any favors, and that you might fail, and you need to be okay with that before you even upload your first video, right? because the amount of people who, and this will sound a bit like a rant, I don't mean it to, but the amount of people who have started channels or wanted to, and I've helped them out, and I've given them not only advice, but I say, hey, if you reach this milestone, you know, we could collab, just to see that they were serious about it, right? And they had some commitment. I see them getting burnt out or just stopping or being like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, like one day very early. So you really do need to make sure that you kind of have that drive. If you want to start willy-nilly to see where it goes, hey, that's how some success stories have been. But I think if you're at least prepared to not expect anything, it's going to go a lot better for you at the very least.
Yeah, the lower your expectation, the more value you can see out of it.
Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, you guys can at me. I love questions a lot. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, well, it looks like we got 2 questions we'll get to at the end for everyone, and then we got a winner right now coming up. How long you been in the game, homeboy? And then one piece of advice.
So I started in 2014, like mid 2014, and that's just when I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And was playing with friends, my brother, after a long period of not playing. And I just decided I would start recording stuff just because at that time, at the age I was like, being a YouTuber is like, that's what I want to do. So I was like, I'll start with this. Like, this is a new passion I have, a new hobby. I'll just post videos of this and see where it goes. And, you know, all these years later, here we are. But one piece of advice, I mean, there's already been so much great advice given, but it'd be like, just if you have, and this goes with anything, like even outside of Yu-Gi-Oh, just like content creation in general, like you just make things that you enjoy doing, like the process of being creative and like putting a video together and filming all these different things for it and making graphics and just having fun in that creative process and being able just to have fun also sharing those things, regardless of what metrics they might pull, you know, how good they're going to do, etc., etc. Just if you have fun doing all of those things from start to finish, you know, going to locals and recording yourself playing and just sitting back and commentating over the experience, if you really like doing that, the whole thing start to finish, and you put it out there, I think that in itself is success, because not many people, you know, will go through all the work to do that. So you're like, well, why would you bother going through all that stuff? Like, just go to locals and play. But if you really want to, you know, get into that content creation stuff, you gotta love all of that stuff. And once you get to that point, you'll find that it's just very rewarding to look back on all those things that you've done, and just do it for that. And at that point, you know, you start doing it for so long, and eventually, like, people will catch on to that. People will see that you genuinely like doing what you're doing. And you'll just slowly build a base from there. And you know, if it goes somewhere and you get super popular, then great. If not, like, you're still having fun, you know, doing what you like doing and just sharing it with people at the end of the day. Just because.
If you guys get super popular, you better come back and come pick me up, bring me up. I'm trying to get super popular.
Oh, you know it.
Y'all getting the goo here. So, how about you? I'll let Mel and Joe both answer because they're both in the same entity. So. You guys can. How long you guys been in the space, and then one piece of advice from each of you guys.
Sure, you can start.
Sure. So I picked up the game back during the pandemic, and I had just recently moved to New York, and I didn't have any friends, and for me that was, you know, it's something that I really wanted to get back into. I hadn't played Yu-Gi-Oh since towards like the middle of high school, and there was a comic store right down my street, so I felt like that was very fitting to like get back into. So I was looking at I remember vividly typing in best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh on YouTube, and then I got yeah, and I saw it was Virtual World. I bought the deck. I was very excited. I spent $100 on the Zeus, which, you know, I regret now, but it did get my mileage off of it. And then I went into the comic store, and I didn't even call ahead of time, but they were like, yeah, we're not hosting games until like a couple months from now to a year, because we're still under the pandemic. I'm like, all right, fair enough. So come past to that, I started meeting a lot of cool people, cool friends. I love the game, not just for the social aspect, but also for the it rewards a player. It rewards just
Promotes
it's
a
so
lot
much
of good.
fun. Yeah, it's just something that genuinely I love, and it makes the inner kid of me that didn't get the chance to have fun as a kid now actually get to enjoy something that it's out of purely enjoyment, nothing selfish.
Yeah.
So
enjoyment for the
and
good
it's
time.
something
All right,
that
Mel,
we
save your
wanted to
boy.
share.
Yeah, right. So we, full transparency, Heart of the Podcast is not a primary YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube, but we don't upload consistently. We're not, that is not our primary platform. We are a podcasting channel, and I think for us, and that's been since 2022. So I think for us, the biggest, at least for me, I won't let Joe speak, but I'll speak for him. The best thing that we found was having a group of people that you could like talk to and rely on, even if they're not necessarily part of your team. So like for us and X, I've seen you kind of grow as well in this. Having a team that you can rely on and not everybody has to have the same skill set helps to not necessarily just lighten the workload a little bit, but also gives you a unique perspective. Like a number of people on this podcast are individuals that run their channels and run them highly successfully. But I don't doubt for a second that each one of them is like, there are people that they bounce ideas off of or ask for support with or ask for help. And I think for me as a content creator, a budding one, it's been really important to ask for help and like reach out to people. I know X has been the absolute goat at that. Like I envy his ability to just like reach out to people and be like, yo, I'm doing something, you want to do it too? And they're like, yeah, like everybody on this channel has
doing
been...
some shit. You in?
Yeah, right.
Son of a bitch. I'm
in. I think I'm the only one that has known it. I've known Xavier since we went to we worked together at the movie theater when we were younger. But and I realized as you all were talking, I'm a former teacher. I could have taught all of you like I can't believe how young you all are, and it's really cool to see Yu-Gi-Oh have such a young crowd like moving through and supporting and giving people chances to see some of the stuff. Like I think in 2015 I remember watching this Earthbound Immortal profile and I was like, oh, WinterKillz, he seems cool, let me check this out. I like Earthbound Immortal. Which when's Earthbound Immortal 1 deck 1 month? We're waiting for
never happened.
We got that new support on the way too.
No.
So it's pretty cool.
I'm just saying.
No. Oh no.
1,000 likes, I'm a foursome.
Do it. But yeah, just having a group of people is a really big support system, and being able to ask like, hey, I have this video idea that I really want to do. What do you think? And we've had concepts that people have just been like, don't do that. That's not gonna do well, or it's not gonna go great. And some of them you're like, well, I want to do it, and then you do it, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. If I could bounce off something Mel said really quickly, is when it comes to that last part of sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't. I kind of look at the own series I kind of have, because I have a series on my channel called 5 Cards Out of Your Trade Binder, right? And I try out a bunch of new series. This one failed pretty badly. I'm not gonna lie. First episode was pretty bad, but I kept at it, and no joke, one of my past 5 Cards Out of Your Trade Binder, because I kept the series running, does better than my normal content. In fact, almost every time I do it, it does better on average than most of my regular content. I feel like just adding to the advice thing, it's good to stick to something for a while and like tune it out. Like a lot of the best stuff you're gonna have isn't gonna work out right away. Like I remember I look at how my market watches progressed, and it's a lot,
And also, before we go into the open questions and then wrap this all up, because I've had you guys here for 2 hours and I appreciate all of you. Just shout out to the squad. It's not just me as the face of Semi-Limited. Of course, I do most of the work, but I have a team behind me. So shout out to Mr. Perfect, who's in chat. Shout out to my mod, Mr. Teaster. So our Discord mod, he put this whole room together, helped me with making sure everything was good. I had a catastrophe. I was having an anxiety attack because right before you guys all came, Saki can vouch for it because he was there. Our server crashed. And it was because I don't know anything about this shit. I'm a fucking old head. Yeah. So the server crashed and I called Trent up. out of the blue. It rang twice, and he picked it up. And I said, "You got a minute?" He goes, "Yeah, I got you." And I said, "Hey, this shit's just crashing. I don't know what's going on. I have no access." And he immediately said, "Give me a second. I'm gonna get on it." And still on the phone with me, was like almost like a hacker, just hitting buttons. And he's like, "All right, well, Discord saying that they got a server update, so things are gonna be out of touch. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be good." And I just know like something like that where I can just hit you up and be like, "All right, you got my back." That's like the shit that I respect. So shout outs to him. Mr. Perfect, who's in here, does not only streaming for our affiliacy in our channel, but also helps him with pack opening and short content. Because as you guys know, you can't do it alone because it takes a village. So shout outs to my squad real quick and all those listening that, I appreciate you guys, and there's a lot I do for you guys off the scenes, but, it's because of the work you guys put in for me now. And, as they all are examples of, we're eventually going to thrive off that. So I appreciate you guys as well. So before we close it out, like I said, I think Mr. Blue Eyes White Privilege there had his hand raised. So we're going to turn over the questions. If he raises his hand again, I can get him up there just to ask his question real quick. Perfect. Brad, do your thing. And then Mr. Blue Eyes White Privilege, you are on with the Semi-Limited Podcast. What is your question?
Hey, what's going on, guys? So my question is kind of a little two-parter. First part of the question is, for ban list, what card would you guys like off the ban list personally and realistically? And then my second part question is, do we ever think the ban lists will ever be won? OCG, Master Duel, TCG. We're seeing them doing a lot of testing on Master Duel with unbanning a lot of cards like the Zodiacs. They unbanned a whole bunch of them recently, unbanning the E-Dragons. Do you think we're gonna see some of that influence into the TCG possibly?
All right, I got my answer already.
So for unban, so are we just going from the top? You said.
Yeah, from top to bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
One card
okay.
that you
so
want banned for. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't. I'm gonna start with the list. I don't think we're ever gonna see a fully merger list. Maybe they will. I think they like testing out different formats in different area locations because of the rarities of the cards themselves and how they kind of format the sales over to EU as well as NA. Our rarities are so completely different. I think that's one of the factors of why we see the two split lists, as well as they like to honestly just kind of test one over there. And then I think we see them doing the list the way they do on Master Duel because it is a best of one format. Okay, so I don't think that's necessarily going to be something that we do see come over here. But I think that's just kind of just what they do over there because it is best of one. And then they like to test Worlds out a lot too. If we notice that Worlds format tends to be a very unique format. I think they like to test the might of the players that do kind of make it to Worlds. And card to come off the ban list realistically, Redox and Blaster. One I want to see is Max C to 3 and the TCG. Definitely.
Fucking bugging.
And there we go.
Bugging.
Hey, bugging. All day, every day. All day,
I want to see Cross on every deck.
Yeah, right? Bugging. All right, Biggs, what about you? Card to come off the ban list, and then do you think the ban list can merge?
So I'll start with the ban list merging. I think it'd be pretty unique. I would actually like that. I think it would be pretty interesting to see how we would adapt to. I think it'd be really nice to see how we would adapt to a ban list that the OCG also has, because I definitely think that our playstyles are completely different. So to kind of see both of us merge together and see how we would run our our tournaments and see what kind of decks we would differ from, because I don't think it'd be the same. I think that we would play it completely different. Even same list, I think we'd still play it completely different just because of our play style per region. But I don't imagine it happening. I think Konami just enjoys giving different platforms for being able to, utilize different lists and try different cards. And, because for some reason, Konami just likes to see everything be different. But when it comes to the ban list, I have three different takes. So I've got my personal take of what I want to come back. I would love to have Grass come back. Cards, I love that card.
Why is it always
graveyard cards are
shit,
just
dog? Always the most degenerate.
I love graveyard.
Vengeful in the corner.
Burn! Watch it all burn!
I love graveyard cards. So if Grass can come back, that would be my personal take. A card that I think could come back would be Snow. I think that the card's insane. Don't get me wrong, but
Okay, Jesse.
Again, it's a graveyard card that can, maintain. It can be maintained. I think it's definitely a card that can be maintained. I mean, we already have tier elements, so again,
tier show. You can do it.
Why not? But I think the unrealistic one is don't bring back Maxi. Like that's just not gonna happen. Like, Maxi, I don't care what anybody says. I know this is probably the worst take, but that card literally just in most situations literally ends turns. Like we're not doing
what that guy said.
I prefer to actually play the game. Like I already got to deal with Shifter. I don't need my opponent playing Shifter and Maxi. Like that's just not no. Like,
let him cook.
If you're gonna do that, give me call by to 3.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
That shit, goddamn.
I was gonna piggyback. That's what I was gonna say right now. Like if y'all mentioning Maxi, Shifter, Snows, like then called by should be at 3, and 3 crossouts. That's 6 cards then, to try and even the playing field. But a merger, I don't think we're gonna get a merger. I mean, people have gotten used to it being separate, just us having our own little thing here and then they're having their own stuff over there. Ideally it'd be nice to all live under the same we're in the same world per se. We're like competitively all around the world. We all play under the same rules or lists or ban lists and things of that nature. But I don't see that. I mean, the world is too big, I guess, for that. They like to keep things, over there, and over here. Just keep it separate. So I think that'll stay the same. And then off the list is easy. Masterpiece, man. Come on now. Like, give us Masterpiece.
Oh my God. If I got to put another donation in your stream to tell you not to mention fucking Masterpiece.
You didn't say
oh my
God.
God.
Say it now. You didn't say it this time.
You're right. I didn't donate this time. That was my fault.
Yes, thank God I get to say
Masterpiece is just the new Stratos. That's how I see it.
I mean, now
every list.
Guys, so many broken cards out there today. I mean, you got the wanted package and, draw and lock birds and ash blossoms and imprims and all. We're worried about like one man. Come on, man. So I need Masterpiece off that list ASAP. Coming up next ban list, Konami. Come on, do us right, man. Give us one Masterpiece and diagram the 3.
Unaffected is such a problematic term.
It's just one card. Nothing that a kaiju can't
You guys
handle.
are fucking
Nothing that a
degenerate.
kaiju can't handle. Man,
you guys are the reason Yu-Gi-Oh gets a bad rep. I just want you guys all to know that.
All right.
Every unlisting has been something super crazy degenerate. But Saki, go ahead. Hopefully you break the format.
You never disagree with me because I'm great, so it'll be fine. So first thing I'm gonna say is I do not want these lists together. Those are 2 completely different formats. Like, and it's really funny because I see people are like, yeah, it would be really cool to see them like brought together, and then it's like, yeah, but we don't want Maxi to 3. That might happen if they come back together. They're 2 completely different formats, and the OCG is ahead of the TCG. I think it's like by 2 core sets. I could be completely wrong about that, but basically, because they're ahead, they're gonna hit things early. And I also like, as a TCG player, looking at the OCG and being like, well, they're ahead of this, and that helps with my market watches, right? I'm like, hey, OCG hit this, TCG might follow suit, right? Because when it comes to the ban list, I would say that NA copies about half of whatever the OCG did prior, right? 50%, sometimes 70%. Sometimes it's a little less than half, right? So I really like being ahead of the curve and, seeing what the OCG has to offer. So I won't want to see them. Now, the cards I'd want to see, one realistically come back, and then it's one I would love to see back, right? That were the 2 last questions? Okay.
Yeah, one that you want to see and then one you think could.
One that's realistic, and this was going to be unrealistic, but I actually do think it's realistic that this card comes back, because in Duelist Nexus, we got a card that's like infinitely better at 3, and it's not seeing play, is we can have one Global back. I think that'll be fine. I don't want Tier to have a tuner, but you know what? Whatever. We can call it a day. I love Plant, and I just want to play Plant. Back in the day, I used to play a fun little Romage build that it got me a lot of prizing. And if I went to events, I actually would have got the top player too. I was that confident, but without Global, I can't do it. But I really do think... I mean, the mill is cool. The mill is strong. Don't get me wrong. But, we have all the Ishizu cards. We have tiers. It's one random mill, right? It's too janky to be consistent.
That's 1 mill too many for tier. That's 1 mill too many.
I hate tier. I don't like tier at all, but I love Global more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like having that one crazy X. No, I'm not gonna get to that. Anyway, card I would really want back, but probably should not come back. I really want one Brilliant Fusion. I love that card so much.
I wasn't around for that. I can either confirm or deny this statement. Someone react to this for me.
Oh no, chat's gonna be all like, yeah.
You said what, Brad?
I said that was like 2018, 2019, was it?
Yeah.
Like, that's when I was kind of seeing it. Yeah, when I came back. Yeah.
Apparently,
yeah,
I mean, FTK. No, FTK. Nah, you're fucking up.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't for the FTKs. The extra normal summon was just so goated, right? Predator Plants were really ahead of its time, but I just loved playing it because, believe it or not, this was the exact same deck I was talking about earlier, where I had the Aromage build post Chaos Impact, where I ended on 4 Optimal Osa Negates, Naturia Beast, a pop on their turn, and Raigeki. And I loved doing it. It was really good.
I think
the Raigeki wasn't. It was very fun.
They rated it to be named Branded Fusion.
So. I had a similar build actually. Christian showed me how to play plants, and I would end with a 4-material Appaloosa and a Naturia Beast and a Borreload Savage with 2 counters. So it was definitely fun.
He's like, okay, can't confirm.
What about you? Don't get
I'm just gonna end with saying I can't wait till we get that Aromage support. Oh, it's too broken.
No, I think he's ready for the artwork. Is what it is.
He's like, we're so back, baby. We're so back.
Oh shit.
All right, Winter, how about you?
So for the ban list thing, I like everything being merged would be pretty cool to see, like that happen, like in a fairy tale world. But I also at the same time like how we have a different list. You know, OCG has a different list. I hate Master Duel, so I don't really care about that. But I kind of like how there's different lists. Like I forget who said it, but like the OCG is like a couple months ahead of us in terms of like products and stuff. But like I just like that it's different. I don't think it needs to come together under all one universal ban list, I guess. But and also for the other question, a card I'd personally like unban and a card that I think will realistically get unbanned. I was just looking at the ban list. Well, personally, I will start. I had to choose between 2 very dear cards of mine, and it was either Block Dragon or Auroradon, and I would have to choose Auroradon. I would love to see that card unbanned. It would be perfectly fine. Just making Auroradon without Halka-Fibrax.
You just want to use it in Speedroid.
Except for Speedroid players who've done nothing wrong. Terratop has been at 1 for ages, so I think Auroradon comes back to 1 and we'd be all good. And then for realistically, it was another toss-up between 2 cards. It was either Colossus or Harp Horror, and they both should come back, but I think Harp Horror would probably be the most realistic. And it got banned. It got banned in January, I think, a January ban list, and we're coming up to January, so this is a perfect time for them to unban free Harp Horror once and for all. So yeah, that's it.
And we could get 2 engaged, but not 1 Harp Horror is crazy,
right?
Yeah. And I love Striker with a passion, so it's like
just free it all. Fuck it.
Just give me my boy Colossus.
Mel and Joe, because I'm gonna lump you together because Joe may not speak. I may shun Joe.
I'm right here.
Go ahead, Joe. You go first, because you can go ahead. You're saying dumb shit. I know it.
Oh, absolutely. So I think Kitkalos should be the pick that needs to come back. If other decks can't keep up,
all right, we're done. Okay, and on the Mel.
But realistically, the card that could come off the ban list is Protoss.
Shut your mouth.
Yo, all right, Trent, do the thing, dog. Get him out of here. He's done. Trent, do the thing.
I can't. That's why I don't bring you places.
Oh,
I don't even need Trent. Brad, do the thing.
I had to sink in my chair after that one.
Brad knows what to do. There he goes. He's on it.
He hit us with the 2 for 2.
Yeah,
all right, Mel. You can close out and save it for him.
That motherfucker. God damn it. So I think related to the ban list, join ban list, I don't want to have join ban list for paper and for Master Duel. Just give me a drop down that lets me pick the ban list that I'm playing with.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're gonna launch. Everybody's gonna go back to playing Master Duel.
Let him cook.
Like, let me just pick which ban list I want to do. Master Duel, OCG, TCG. Let me pick the format. Like, and the cards are legal and illegal, like you get almost everybody in there, because now I can test out a deck without having to pay a shitload of money for it, and I don't have to go on DB or anything. I just do that. Like, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. Somebody can create a drop down. It's not that hard. I work in this shit. You can do that.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get realistic training on Master Duel with Maxi. Like, I can't realistically playtest a format.
You heard that, Vengeful?
Especially, yeah.
Oh, I'm here. I know. You can't play test it if it's legal here, though. You know, just play testing future formats.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can go play OCG if you really want Protoss. Go ahead.
He's gonna find himself in audience next.
And Mystic Mind too.
This guy,
just
Jesus Christ, 2 for 2.
All the cards.
All the
I like my cave. I like my cave.
In terms of the card that I would like off, I would say Colossus. I think Colossus would be a lot. I think it's fine to come back.
Yes.
Only at 1 though. I think beyond 1 it becomes a problem. But at 1 it's totally fine.
You don't miss 3 Colossus on the end board?
No, absolutely not.
I know you do, Brad.
What am I gonna do?
I do.
3 Colossus on the end board and 6 Thunders in graveyard. Like, I'm not playing.
Yeah, you better have Dark Ruler, motherfucker.
Right? And then the wild card.
Just open up Sphere Mode.
Yeah. All you gotta do, just open up this on. I mean, I'm gonna play.
Open
Ron,
up side
search
deck,
it,
5 head. Come on.
All you have to do is drop your balls on the table and you got it.
That's right. The unrealistic card. This card should never have said any level 2 monster, but Sprite Elf is the unrealistic card that I think they might do. But I think it would come back with It would come back with an errata that you can only Sprite cards can play it. Like, that card should have never said any level 2, and they shouldn't have printed. I love tier elements. They should not have printed a level 2 tier elements.
It was basically tier elements elf.
They knew what they were doing.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
If they were to errata it, it should probably be just so you can only use a special summon on your turn, not either turn.
Yeah. Yeah, just either remove the quick effect or like that. Yeah, something like that. Because
you got tier elements elf, and tier elements sprined. They're not sprite cards.
Yeah. And then last question, we're gonna bring up the last guest of the night before we close out, and it's gonna be a quick one. Looks like we have Sword Soul Joe here. Brad, do your thing.
Got you.
All right, you are live here on the Semi-Limited Podcast. What is your question?
Okay, I will say one thing real quick. VengefulShad0wz, Joe, we're cool. There's no more. We're cool between us. You want to bring back Protoss, my guy, Giga based. Bring him to me.
Don't find yourself back there with him. You're trying too close there, guy.
Yeah. Question is: fuck, marry, kill. Sprite Blue, Mathmech Circular, Swords of Lamoyi. Go.
There are no waifus in that. Okay.
All right, no explanation off the top. You say, all right, well, I guess I'm marrying Elf because I play Sprite. I'm gonna kill Circular because I don't know. I just don't like Circular, and I guess I'm fucking Moya. So that's what it is.
Moyi is a girl, by the way.
So I guess that's the only fuck for everyone. So.
Yeah.
All right, so who are you marrying and killing, boys?
Sprite Blue will be an interesting one.
All right, anyone want to answer that quick?
Electricity, no?
Yep.
That's why I'm marrying it.
You're just gonna die.
You could say that he would give you a real shock.
Real shock, man.
All right, I'll leave.
You're telling me that you don't want to fuck Circular?
No, never.
I'm gonna marry Circular because they're probably good at math, and I'm gonna have a lot of money.
Hey yo, puns. Anyone else had any answers before we close out today?
I think the marriage of Circular and killing a blue is the way to go. Gotta kill blue.
Yeah. You're gonna kill blue? Nah, Sprite Blue didn't do nothing. Elf died for her sins.
Oh, he didn't.
All right, guys. So we are starting to run out of life points. I appreciate all of you guys for being here for well over the 2-hour mark. As I said to you guys, I wanted to do something really big, and I appreciate all of you guys for coming in, donating your time and your topics, your viewpoints, and all that stuff, and chit chat. And a lot of networking was done here. A lot of good topics, a lot of good viewpoints and mentions were brought up, especially from Mel. Love you, Mel. But we're going to start wrapping this up. Without any further ado, if you guys are listening right now outside of the live feed, in the future ends, make sure you go down to the description box below for our link tree. You can click on it, follow all the sites, and make sure you're following all of the distributors as well. So you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, yada yada, all that stuff. Make sure to follow all the social sites. We'll be doing giveaways soon. I want to start giving away double what we gave away last year, and with the help of our sponsors, Unplugged Gaming, which you can also catch in that Discord. We'll be sure to do that. Shout outs to Brad. I'm gonna let him say something, but he also streams live on Saturdays. 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Got it, Mel. And that will be every Saturday. So I'll let him quickly say what he does before we give everyone their final thoughts.
I mean, yeah. Well, first off, I know that Slim and GG are already gone, but I thank you guys for giving us your time tonight. Honestly, I thought this was a killer stream. So many amazing topics covered. So many great thoughts. Definitely going over the processes of everything. But yeah, as far as myself, I call myself Mr. Perfect because recently for like a better half of this year, I've been playing Pearly ever since it came out of Amazing Defenders. That's been my deck.
Yes.
Love Pearly. Pearly is my shit. It's like one of my favorite decks. Recently been playing Rescue Ace. And I'm starting to learn the Fire King stuff, so that's going to be my next meta deck or whatever. My good deck. Other than that, no, I stream on Twitch every Saturday. You can catch me at semi_perfect, PURRFECT_gaming. I also do the perfect polls. We've gotten lucky pretty recently getting a couple of alties and all that, but it's just, just extra little content. I used to have a YouTube myself. I kind of, just like Kawasaki was saying earlier, I'm kind of got burnt out from it after like a year of doing it. Like I was like, doing okay. My last video was actually with X, with Crush Cards, and we were doing a box opening challenge together. I think that was over at Jake's place. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, you can catch me every week. It's all things Yu-Gi-Oh, and yeah, that's about it. So.
All right, so before we close out, I want to get everyone's final thoughts. Last 2 minutes to say whatever's on your mind. Give your shout outs, your plugins, where they can find you, all that stuff. We'll go top to bottom one last time before we wrap this sucker up.
All right, big shout out to Player X for having everyone on. Honestly, it was super awesome. Even the first time you reached out and we had a good old fun time. You're awesome, man. I look forward to a lot of future endeavors with you and everyone else here in the chat. Big shout out to the editor and thumbnail helper of mine, Thug314. He's my partner in crime. As always, got to give him a shout out. He's the best. And honestly, I'm just looking forward to 2024 to see what Konami does. Because, I mean, honestly, this year at Worlds, seeing that come back and seeing the show they put on, I'm very excited to see the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! So.
Yes, big shout out to X, Semi-Limited. Appreciate you guys having me on tonight, of course. Hopefully we can continue to provide such good content going into 2024. For those who are interested, Figs Forum, check me out on YouTube. Come check out the good old Phantom Nights.
It's like PK every day, right?
Yeah, X, thanks for having me. Make sure you sell that Arise of those Starlights, bro. You got to get rid of them, man. You just have
going to the
bro.
grave with me, motherfucker.
You know what I mean?
Going to the grave.
And
he'll be brought back again. I'm
the
summoning
one,
that motherfucker. He'll be
when
Masterpiece
again. When Masterpiece comes back, you're gonna sell your Rise. Right. It's gonna happen at the same time. But yeah, man,
I'm donating $5 right now. No more Rise or Masterpiece talk for the rest of the day.
Oh man, no, but again, man, had a blast with all of you guys. You guys are amazing. Check out YGO Fresh Off the Press. I do daily market watches. Yeah, make sure you swing by, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, man.
All right. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but shout out to the Semi-Limited Podcast. If you guys don't know them, they're great. Okay, I'm sorry. That's such a bad joke. But jokes aside, hey, thank you for having me on, my man. It's been great. I love how diverse this podcast was too, like in opinions, like where we're going through ban list, all that. If anyone wants to come to me to collab, that's one big goal I have next year. So I want to collab with more people, big, small, medium, whatever, right? And I want to try out some more content. So anyone here, feel free to get in contact with me. I try to check my Discord as much as possible. My YouTube, I do market watches, deck profiles, Yu-Gi-Oh news. I have my own series like 5 cards have your trade binder. 5 cards you want to, that's 5 cards you want to get before they spike up. I tell you why they spike up, how much they are, how much you should get, more details like that. I upload about 3 to 5 times a week, so go check me out. I actually have a cool Yu-Gi-Oh news video that came out today, but by the time you guys are hearing this, you guys probably already know.
Also, donate to his stream too, because he opens OTS packs. You might get lucky.
Oh yeah, that too.
And then, how about you, Winter?
Yeah, obviously, again, shout outs to you for putting this whole thing together and having me on. It was fun this time and fun last time, and looking forward to being a part of this again. And yeah, I mean, you just check me out on YouTube, WinterKillz. I try to upload as often as possible. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes I don't upload for a week, but you know, I try to be consistent. You can check out my Twitch. I stream usually every Wednesday and Thursday. Not at a specific time. I usually just post in my Discord when I stream. Check out my Discord. We got a lot of amazing people in there. I'm also a photographer, so you can follow me on Instagram at Mike English Photography if you want to check that out. That's something I also do on the side. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure my partner's
Mel, yeah, I'll bring Joe back for a second.
No, you don't have to. You don't have
for a second. No, just because he's all right. He started. He gets 1 second. I might be.
Go ahead,
Brad,
Joe.
get ready.
Bring Protoss back.
I'm gonna ban you from our podcast.
Brad was already ready to go. All right, Mel. Closing thoughts for the entirety of your group.
No, shout out to you, X. You've been keeping us going. You've been pushing us every week. We get a text like, "When's the next episode?" I'm working and I need something to listen to, so I'm glad that you keep pushing us. Shout out to everybody on here. It's been very humbling to be around people that I watch very consistently almost all the time when I'm doing stuff, so I appreciate that. And shout out to my podcast mates, even though they're banned or not here right now, because I have to keep somebody has to keep them together.
Yeah, Dad, keep them in order. Well, we are running out of life points. We are all out, guys. So without further ado, we are going to end this. I just want to thank you guys all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for growing with us for the year of 2023 when we first started getting to where we are now. Big things planned for 2024, and I want everyone re-involved with it. I'm thinking we're going to do this every year. We're going to have a big shebang, bring everybody back and talk back, stream, all that stuff like that. Appreciate everyone in the chat for tuning in and having some fun. You guys got the exclusive. This isn't dropping until next week, so you guys will be hearing all of the new content and spice before everyone else. So that was my gift to you guys. And without any further ado, I think we're going to wrap this up. Everyone, you want to say your name one last time, and then we're going to close out.
Yeah, VengefulShad0wz with a 0WZ.
Figs with Figs form.
ygofreshoffthepress.
TeamSakurasou YouTube. Doesn't have YouTube in it, but you know.
WinterKillz with a Z and an underscore for some reason.
Heart of the podcast. This is Mel from them. I already let them know, Joe. I can't stand you sometimes.
And then Brad.
Oh, Mr.
That's right. And
oh boy.
And I am Player X. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you, and good night.